Attention.
Region Review.
The Raging Cajuns will be a source of pride for this university, for the alumni, fans, and donors as we achieve success in the classroom, in the competitive arena, and in the community.
It's about to get really fun.
We're looking for dudes that will stand up. Well, Coach, let me tell you today, I'm here and I'm ready to stand up. And I challenge you, Raging Cajun Nation, to stand up with us. Stand up with us. Let's lock hand in hand and let's walk through the gates of Omaha.
Hey, I love y'all boys. Let's grind every day starting today. Let's do it. Y'all ready? Alert! Ready? Who's that team ready? Who's that team ready? Yes, sir.
I got one thing to say right here. Cajuns win!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Raging Review podcast. Raging Review post-game. And yes, the Cajuns do win. Dominant fashion. One of the best games we played all season long. So good times. Again, welcome back. RR After Dark. Finally, we didn't get to stay too late. It's just before 8 o'clock, so we're all still feeling pretty good. Jerry, Nick, that was fun. Not really a lot to complain about tonight. See a lot of smiles on faces around, so that's good. Any lasting impressions from the last part of that game? I know it was a little bit messy at the end, but overall, that's pretty dominant.
Yeah, I wish we wouldn't have made that mistake. McDonald made that mistake and tried to make something happen when he was going down. So you attribute that to a kid who's trying to make a play and doesn't get a lot of playing time. But no, I mean, all in all, that was a solid performance. I thought our offensive line performed well at times. They had some breakdowns at times, but of course, when you look at the rushing stats, and I know we'll go through statistics later in the game, you'll see that we just completely dominated the line of scrimmage when it came to opening holes for our two running backs that we had tonight. So overall, a good performance. If there's something to complain about, yes, and I will touch on that later. I don't want to ruin the good vibe we got going on right now, man.
I had a great time today. This was actually the first game I got to bring my 9-month-old daughter, and now she's 2-0 in baseball and 1-0 in football. So, Allie, way to go, sweetheart. You're undefeated. A very different upbringing than what we had as Cajun fans. So she's off to a great start. But but she had a great time, and the missus and the little one they left at halftime, and of course I stayed at least through the third quarter before heading home. But overall, I saw a team that really just gelled and picked up from where they left off against Marshall. Offensively, they moved the ball well downfield. Ben Woldridge, how about Ben, man? 5 touchdown passes. A crazy quarterback rating. He just looked like an all-conference quarterback today, and just his presence on the field, it just reeks of leadership, and you could tell the players play around him. It looked like everybody got to touch the football again for the second straight game in a row, and I just feel like there's a lot of momentum. And how about the rushing game today? We haven't seen a run attack like this all year long. It's kind of like back to the old days of us, just grinding, running backs lowering their shoulders, offensive line opening holes, running backs making cutbacks, very impressive cutbacks. So just an all around great game offensively. Defensively, ball hawks. You played against a team that really throws the ball well, and I thought they did a really good job for the most part, maintaining a sense of decent coverage. Gave up a few big pass plays here and there, but nothing that really did significant damage. It's going to happen. Arkansas State's a team that can score. So, they got theirs, but overall, just a great game. And I said last week that this was a game that we really had to win to get a maybe possibly a run going. And man, you couldn't ask for a better situation than what we saw today going into Southern Miss on Thursday night. I think this team is ripe for a little bit of a run moving forward.
Speaking of Southern Miss, they went on the road, took care of business against Texas State. I keep wanting to call them West Texas. I have no idea why, but they won. So that sets up that's a big game for us on Thursday. That's talk about momentum. Look, that's two good fan bases that know each other well, and that's going to be a dogfight because honestly, if you're going to have I think now Southern Miss is 3-3 on the year, and we just went over the hump at 4-3. So everybody feels like they're kind of going in the right way. What you got, Jerry?
Southern Miss is 4-3 as well.
They are also 4-3. Okay, good. So a couple of 4-3 teams that really the arrow's pointing right up. So, I mean, what else can you want from a Thursday game in the Sun Belt? That's going to be fun. Lots to say, lots to talk about what we learned and everything. We all know that the defense did their thing. All right, but let's start in the backfield, like you guys mentioned. We had some running backs that did work tonight. Terrence Williams. Let's start there. For the first time this year, and this is no slight on anybody. Look, Cabote's been kind of banged up. He had a couple of decent runs tonight, but for the first time this year, the rushing game kind of took over for a while there. Late third, early fourth, really took the game over. Terrence Williams made some people hurt. He ran over some people, made some people miss. What did you guys see out of Terrence Williams? I saw a big back that runs north and south, that if you get him rolling, get out of his way or he's going to make you pay the price. I was very impressed with him. Zylan Perry looks like a spark plug. He looks like every bit of the talent we thought he was going to be. So between those two guys, and we'll get to the others, Washington had a nice game also. Cabote had some nice moments, but overall, the running back room Chris Smith is out for this game. That's a big miss. That's a big piece of the puzzle offensively that you didn't have available. Anybody have comments on whether it be Williams, whether it be Zylan coming in and having those spark plug moments, a couple of big carries late in that game? Anything you guys want to say about them? Nick, we'll start with you.
Yeah, we opened some damn holes on the offensive line. I thought Hudson had a great game, and we've been waiting for that. But again, I mean, Cabote showed some athleticism. He showed that he can outmaneuver. He's got some good moves in him, right? He's not going to be your power back, but he is going to be your finesse back, and we saw that tonight. And then, of course, Williams, I mean, good God. He was like a freight train running through guys.
Full grown man.
And also what I like to see tonight is that we were able to hit the edge. Earlier in the game, we weren't. There were a couple of times where Arkansas State was just sitting there ready for us, and we couldn't get anything out on the edge. But as we wore them down, which I thought we would, man, we were hitting the edge. We're running it up the middle. We were railroading guys. So it was exciting to see. That is what we need from our offensive line going forward. Because like you said, we've got a 4-3 Southern Miss. We're going to play Troy. Then we got to go, we just got to go on the road and play Florida State. So we got to grow up real fast. And I think I said it at the beginning of the season. I thought we would get better as the season went on. But there was such a significant improvement between our other two conference games. I mean, you could see it against South Alabama. We were right there, man. We were right there against South Alabama. You saw it last weekend against Marshall. We destroy Arkansas State this week. So we're trending up. And again, I think it starts with our offensive line and our running game. That opens so many things up for us.
If you look at the four running backs that got touches between Terrence Williams, Jacob Cabote, Dre Washington, and Zylan Perry, each of them got 11 carries except for Cabote, who got 12. Each averaged between 4 and 5 yards a carry. That's as good as it gets right there.
That's the dream.
Running for a running back tandem that really is still trying to find that identity a little bit. They're still following in the footsteps of what we've seen over the last few years. Really haven't been able to get things going consistently. Tonight was their night to shine, and they did that. When you're getting 4 or 5 yards of carry for each of those guys, especially Zylan Perry, who everybody had hype about him coming out of Franklin as a freshman, everybody knows that he has so much potential to do great things. And for him to get 11 carries for 48 yards, that's a great start. Then you have Terrence Williams and Jacob Cabote. I mean, they were not afraid to lower their shoulder. They were coming down like battering rams. There were times where they went into 3 or 4 Arkansas State defenders at one time at the second level and just lowered their shoulders for another 5 or 6 yards. That's Trey Regis in a nutshell. That's an Elijah Mitchell in a nutshell. That's what they used to do. And there were a few times when you were 1 or 2 shoestring tackles away from one of those guys breaking it loose to take it to the house. So, they get better each week. I mean, last week they got better against Marshall. This week they played. I mean, this is the best game they played on the ground. I think we're starting to see this team click at the right time. And it's at the most important time because now, like you said, Nick, it doesn't get any easier. You have a really tough stretch coming up in conference right now where you're playing teams that are all in the hunt for a chance to play in the conference championship. And you got Florida State mixed in there. So I'm glad that they're finally starting to click. And that's why, again, going into Hattiesburg next week, you could not have asked for a better performance like you saw tonight, especially in the run game. And we'll get to the receiving core in a little bit. There's a lot to say about that as well. But wow, kudos to the running backs tonight. Unbelievable performance on every single guy.
Now, before we go forward, let me just temper our expectations on tonight's performance, because no doubt offensively we were completely dominant. Defensively, we also were. They were also without their QB1, who's damn good in passing the ball. And we saw them throw earlier in the game a couple of long passes that I don't know if it was blown coverage or I don't know what happened on those those long passes, but let's just not forget that QB1 was not playing for Arkansas State tonight.
Nick, what happened with that? I didn't know. I didn't hear anything, and obviously I was in the stadium, so I didn't hear anything. What, you have any news on that?
Well, Kara alluded to it earlier in the week where she said Butch Jones doesn't ever talk injuries. He plays it close to his vest, and that was again the case this week. I think he has an issue with a foot injury that he's been kind of nursing for the last few weeks, and I think he just wasn't ready to go this week. I think he's been trying to play through it from what I understand, so that's why he didn't play tonight.
All right, good to know. Had no idea. Back to the running backs. I think that a big element of our game that has made us so successful for the last 3 or 4 years was that physicality in the backfield. And I felt like we were thinking too much. We weren't just toting the rock, just hitting somebody. I thought that Terrence Williams provided that tonight. Cabote, early in the game, he'd fall forward for a yard or two, and that's good. You got to get those tough yards, but it almost felt like it was contagious on offense. It felt like that physicality kind of trickled through the offense. I will say tonight that the offensive line, especially the right side of the offensive line, was about as good and physical as we've seen them be. So I got to give them a big shout out. You guys mentioned Hudson. Got to shout out to Hudson. This was probably his best game at center. So there were multiple times, and I was sitting with some fans and made some jokes. There were multiple times when our running back would get to the second level, and we joked that they looked around like, all right, coach, what do we do now? We don't get to the second level. We don't know what to do with these linebackers. What's the next move, coach? So that's a little bit of a joke, but we haven't seen the second level very much this year. So we haven't had to make linebackers miss, and we haven't had to run over safeties and cornerbacks and nickelbacks. So that was fun to watch. It was good to see somebody just put their head down and bull their way through for 2 or 3 yards and fall forward. It's so necessary to continue the success going forward. And you guys mentioned it looks like we're trending in the right direction at the right time. And I'm not going to turn this into a Mike and a coaching staff situation, but if you were looking for some trends and you were looking for patterns and you were looking for something to hitch your wagon to, this team has gotten better game in, game out over the last month. That's the most important thing. They're starting to find guys that they can plug and play. The run game, regardless, you guys mentioned we had 200 plus tonight. The running game, if it can be found, you look at what Ben did with a running game. Look what he did. I mean, look at the stats, and we'll talk stats later, but Ben went out and was efficient. I think he had almost a 200 or maybe even more of a QBR tonight. That is outstanding. And what happens when you have a running game? You have more options. You can open up the offense. But staying on the offensive line, we had a couple of guys go down and come in and out, and hopefully we're healthy coming out of that game. I'm not really sure. Saw a couple of things that kind of made me worry, but it looks like we came out pretty healthy. I saw Moncrief go out, and this is a defensive injury, but I saw Moncrief go out. I want to say that was early in the third quarter or maybe late in the second. Did you guys get any news on Moncrief? I didn't see him re-enter the game, but I also didn't hear anything as far as radio or see anything on social media about his injury. Anybody have any news on that?
No, but I would just say by the third quarter, if somebody, gets a paper cut on their left hand, they're not going back in the game. So
sure.
Hopefully
especially
that's
in a blowout.
Hopefully that's all it was. But no, I haven't heard anything injury-wise.
So let's move on to the quarterback conversation. Obviously, Woolrich had a game. Early in the game, he had Mike Jefferson for a touchdown, wide open. People are going to say he missed that throw. I'm going to give him a little grace and say the wind's howling in from the south. He overshoots him by maybe a yard. If the wind's not howling, maybe that's in the breadbasket. We've seen Ben throw a nice deep ball. So I'm going to give him some grace on that. But Jefferson wasn't the guy in the wide receiver room tonight. It was Dante Fleming. We saw Jacob Bernard have an incredible game, especially obvious. I thought the 4th down touchdown pass changed the entire complexion of that game. It was nip and tuck. We had given up 10 points unanswered to that point. Mike says, you know what? I'm going to lay my sack on the table. We're going for it on 4th and 5. And Ben just puts it right where it needed to be. Jacob makes a great pass. And this is right after he dropped a pass the down before, if you guys remember. So big grab by him and really just outran everybody. Then that was interesting. I didn't think he was as fast as he was. So Ben, it seems like, Kyle Brister made the comment, Ben Wooldridge is kind of like one of those big running backs that they need 2 or 3 series to get lathered up and start running over people. Ben seems like he's finding his footing. He's finding that rhythm. He's getting some confidence. He knows it's his offense, so he's able to take some shots. He's able to check it down when maybe, it might not be a for sure first down, but I know I'm coming in the next series. We're going to come back and get him. I see a lot out of Ben. I saw a lot out of Ben tonight. I think he's getting better and better and better and better. What did you guys see out of Ben tonight? And then we'll move on to what we saw behind Ben.
Yeah, I saw Ben continue to get better, and I saw, like you said, him spreading the ball around, which we have such a deep wide receiver core. We were all waiting first, second, third game of the season. Why are we just throwing it to Jefferson? And look, first game of the season, we were very successful in throwing to our tight ends, but ultimately we need our wide receivers to be able to catch the ball when we get it to them, and we need to be able to hit open receivers. And so, yeah, he had that missed pass earlier in the game, but when you see what he did after that, I mean, you can't. Okay, so Ben wasn't 38 for 38 tonight. All right, well, what did he do? So yeah, I saw Ben continue again, just like the team, the positive trend and the performance that I think we all expected from if he were starting quarterback, named at the beginning of the season. It's going to be interesting going forward. I'm not a fan of a quarterback losing their job because of injury, but we're getting. I mean, if we have a couple more performances like this, and Chandler gets healthy, and Dez is going to have a decision to make, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes with it.
Nick, if I can push back before Jerry goes, I think Ben is eliminating that decision. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit more, but I think Ben is saying, I got this. This is mine. I'm locking this down. And look, I'm not anti-Chandler. I love Chandler as a quarterback. I rode for Chandler all offseason. I liked him in the spring. I think he's a good quarterback. We're halfway into the season. Unfortunately, he got hurt at a bad time. You got to ride with what works. In my view, I'm just a fan out here. I'm just telling you the way I see it. You can't walk into that locker room and tell that offense, hey, we got to give him another chance. I'm sorry. I mean, we can have that conversation, but I just don't see it that way. Go ahead, Jerry.
I was the same way. I thought Chandler, by seniority, should have gotten the start from day one. I was always kind of, always had Chandler's back, only because he had a little more experience on the field than Ben in a Cajuns uniform. But, Ben comes from Fresno State. He has sort of that, he has that California quarterback style, gunslinger, good pocket presence. You see a lot of those West Coast quarterbacks very similar to his ability, and it shows. I think at this point, you really have to ride with what works. And you have a quarterback right now that is on fire in the last 2 weeks. His passing attack has been fantastic. His quarterback rating is way up right now. He's thrown for, I think in the last 2 weeks, 6 or 7 touchdowns. So,
well, hell, when you throw 5 in a game, your numbers are going to be up.
You play the hot hand, right? So I think that's where we are. And so with Ben, you could see it with the offense. There's something about his aura on the field. You could just tell the offense responds to it. And I'm sure it did the same for Chandler, but with Ben, there's just something about it. I don't know. I can't describe it. It's an intangible that I just don't know. But I know as fans, there's been debates on who should start, who should do this, who should do that, and all this stuff. But just look, data, basic data. Look at the past 2 games. Look at the past 2 games and look at what Ben has done. I think at this point, and Chandler, unfortunately for him, he's not 100%. This week was the first week he's actually able to throw at practice. I think now you just have to go with Ben and see what happens from here on out, because there's just no. I just don't think there's a debate, or it's even up for discussion at this point from what we've seen these last 2 games. And so I'm excited to see what Ben can do. I hope Chandler gets better, and maybe down the road, if Coach Dez can, I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like right now you play with the quarterback that has the hot hand, and it's obviously Ben. The offensive scheme, on the other hand, I think what got people confused with Ben in the beginning was that, again, we've always run the run balance attack, and with Chandler being more of a scrambler, I felt that he fit the scheme better. But now you're starting to see, as one of the commenters, Brian, made a comment about how our passing attack is setting up for the run, when in the past it was always the opposite. Our run game always set up for the pass. But you're seeing how effective it's been, and you saw it last week against Marshall, those first couple drives where Ben's slinging it up and down the field and spreading it out. He did the same thing tonight. Take a look at the stats and look at the number of guys that got to touch the ball and score touchdowns. Dante Fleming and Jacob Bernard, they've been pretty much MIA for the whole season, and look at what they did tonight, both of them. Michael Jefferson and Stevens both have been our key receivers. They were kind of in the back burner today. Not to say that that's a bad thing, but that's a good thing, because now everybody's touching the football. Everybody's getting an experience to be able to catch a long pass downfield or make a big play. That pays dividends when you're getting into the crunch time of the season. Now you got Jacob Bernard and Dante Fleming. Guess what? You just have 2 more receivers that now defensive coordinators have to prepare for. That is huge. And I think that's what's important of why Ben is doing what he's doing right now, because he's a gunslinger, and it's showing. So I'm with you guys. You got to go with Ben. You have to. There's no question at this point.
Little bit of a hot take. And before I do that, I just want to remind everybody, hey, invite everybody into the post game. This is where we have fun after the games. If you like what we do, please subscribe, like, rate, review. Go on to Google, write big, long essays about how much you love Rage and Review, do all that stuff. It really helps us out. Anyway, we talked about this last week about the wide receiver core, how we thought it was the most talented and most experienced group on the team, right? You guys realize, and maybe you've not stopped to think about this, but ever since Ben has been entrenched as the starter, and by the way, this is not a knock on anybody. I'm not talking about whether it's like Ben is better or Chandler's better. The fact is the fact. I'm just stating facts. Since Ben has been entrenched as the starter, that wide receiver room has started to shine. Jacob. LeBlanc had a very nice catch on the sideline, on the far sideline from the home side tonight. That was a first down. And Ben kind of manufactured that play. Look at Fleming over the last 2 games. 3 touchdown passes. I think he was over 100 yards or right around there tonight. Last game, I think he was somewhere around there in the 80s and 90 range. He's starting to shine. Jefferson is a threat always. They had 2 guys the entire night when he was on the field. There were 2 guys dedicated to Michael Jefferson. And even though Stevens still has the dropsies, he's the threat because he's a mismatch and he's fast. So regardless, look, he's going to catch some of those wide open passes, right? He's going to catch a few of them. You still got Jamal Bell back there who had an opportunity to make a catch tonight, and he kind of, he dropped a pass also. But you still got Errol Rogers had a couple of nice catches. The wide receiver room is what we thought they were. I just think that they've had to worry about this quarterback, that quarterback. Again, Nick made a great point about different quarterbacks have, guys that they look for. So now that the quarterbacks have an idea and have a little bit of, not necessarily familiarity with their route trees, but they know what those little ticks and intangibles that Ben has, they know what to look for. They know a shoulder move is a rub and go, or they know a quick pump is not a stop or a turn, it's a run or it's a cut. All those little things that we don't think about as fans, but those guys know as receivers. They know when to sit down in the zone. They know when the hot route is hot, like things like that. I think that is starting to show itself. Might be wrong, but that's what I see as a fan. behind Ben. And again, Nick, you have the stats pulled up. I think Ben was 21 for 34 tonight, 315, 5 touches, QBR of
Yes,
almost. What was the
that is-
QBR?
QBR was 188. Sick.
When's the last time we had that? Seriously.
Wow. A long time, man.
That is awesome.
You know, and he was efficient. He made big throws on third down. This wasn't like Jerry likes to say, a dink and doink type situation. This wasn't that. He was slinging it around the football field. So
Man,
that was fun to watch.
He went vertical a few times. I mean, we scored at least 3 touchdowns on some nice vertical plays. That slant he threw to Jacob Bernard, what was it, on 4th down? Jacob Bernard getting his inner Julian Edelman there. That was beautiful.
I got to give some credit to Tim and Mike on that call, because they vacated the entire middle of the field, and they knew it was going to be a one-on-one matchup with that nickel corner and Jacob, and they trusted him to run the route, not round it off, make a deep dig, cut in, catch the football, and run. So well done all the way around. The catch, the throw, the call, all the way.
That long pass, it was the next touchdown after that to Dante Fleming, where he stepped in, where Ben stepped in and Dante just blew past the safety. That was beautiful. I don't think I've seen a long touchdown pass completion like that from one of our quarterbacks. It's been a while. It's been a long time. Because Levi never really did that. Levi, he would throw a few deep balls, but it was never like that. It was more of, it was either already designed, or it was more or less the kind of like those middle, like, what is it called?
Intermediate passing game with the yak.
Intermediate passing game. Yeah, it was a lot of those, but that long pass to Dante Fleming was a thing of beauty. And I mean, look, that's flashiness that fans want to see, right? Fans love that. And that was, I think there's a lot more of that.
Well, Jerry, we needed it.
Around.
We needed to take the top off, because they were all, at some point there were 8 and 9 guys in the box that were daring him to throw. And it was almost like Ben was like, oh, all right, you dare me to throw? I'll throw.
Yeah,
that's what it looked like. And they opened it up for him. And to his credit, he dropped him in the bucket, man. Mm-hmm. And say what you want about the quarterback situation, but when you have a guy back there that can do that, he's a threat. When you have mismatches on the outside, like Stevens, God bless him, and Mike Jefferson, it's a threat regardless. You don't ever want to have somebody wide open behind the secondary, and that's the threat that they pose. Let's talk about Zion Chris coming in and kind of looking the part. He looks big and strong. He looks confident. I like him. I mean, he has all the intangibles. He has the swag. He's got it all. What did you see out of Zion? That was fun to watch for a little while.
It was fun to watch, and what we'll do is we'll have a 2-quarterback situation with Zion in the next couple of years, and we'll be talking about all this again. No, look, I think he is going to be he's going to be the next big deal as far as quarterbacks go for Louisiana. He has just got too much talent, and I'm sure he's going to have growing pains he needs to go through as a starter. But man, he's going to be fun to watch.
We all knew the expectations of Zion coming in. It was nice to see him get some experience tonight. I don't think there was really much to show at that point in the game where he really had to do a lot. I think it was more or less just to get some experience. I think the player that really stood out to me as far as experience was Zylan Perry. But of course, we're talking about the quarterbacks right now.
He's awesome.
I'm glad Zion got some play time. Now that is 1 game out of 4 before his red shirt gets taken away. But I do know that Dez had alluded last week that if we had a bigger lead, that he would want to give Zion some experience. So I'm glad he did. He went 0 for 3, but in the passing game. But at that point, it didn't really matter. I'm glad he just got to get some experience there.
Anytime you play your backup, it signals that you have routed this team. And I hate Arkansas State because of so many reasons. And we routed them enough to let Zion get some snaps. So it's a win-win. Regardless, it's a flag. Look, we kicked y'all's ass up and down the field. We're going to put in our backup now. True freshman, by the way. Anyway, shout out to the offensive line, who I thought did a better than average job, actually a pretty good job of pass protection tonight. I don't know if Ben was sacked maybe once. I think Ben was sacked once tonight. Outside of that trash time, I wasn't really paying attention. Well, actually, Zion and Zai were in, so that wasn't even Ben. So I think Ben was sacked one time on a true drop back, and maybe dropped behind the line on a couple, maybe one or two quarterback keepers. Outside of that, the offensive line pass protected pretty damn well tonight. I'm going to give Mike and Tim some credit as well because they put together a game plan where it was 1, 2, 3, get it out. 1, 2, 3, get it out. That's how we started. And as soon as we started selling into our scheme and they started cheating up, boom, over the top. So overall, coaches have gotten heat early in the season. We got to give them some love. I thought that our game plan was great. I thought we attacked that particular team the way they needed to be attacked. My biggest worry was pressure off of the edges. Jerry, we talked about this, Nick, in the preview with Kara Ritchie. They said that they felt like they had an advantage on the edges with their speed. And there were a few times where that was the case. They hurried some throws. They got in Ben's face a couple times. They batted a couple of passes down. But overall, I'm going to give the tackles, I'm going to give them a B+, A-, somewhere in there. I thought the offensive line did pass protection tonight about as good as it's been, maybe since EMU. Am I crazy, or did you guys see the same?
No, I definitely saw the same. And look, a lot of the pass rushing off the edges, the lack of that as the game went on just had to do with depth. I mean, one, I don't know that they have depth there, and two, they have a lot of injuries. So that had a lot to do with it as well. But no, I saw what you saw, and I just want to bring up what Carson said. Thank you for throwing that up there. I mean, Kenny, it doinked, but it doinked the right way through the field goal earlier in the game.
Hold on. You got to account for the win. It was crazy. Southeast, and it was howling, 25, 30 mile an hour gust. So even when he lined up, we were all saying, hey, you got to kind of turn it this way. It was like, it was like a pitching wedge. You got to get that thing up, but you got to turn to the left. So he did his job. Overall, the kicking game, not just Kenny, Reese was great. The coverage was great. Once again, special teams played well. And look at here, got to win.
Yeah, and look, when things are going your way, going back to Kenny, when things are going your way, you get those bounces, and things are going his way right now. So I'm happy to see, like Carson said, I'm not holding my breath every time we go to kick an extra point or a field goal this year.
I was speaking of the edges, I think one thing that I have to compliment was Ben and the way he was able to elude some of those blitzes from the edges. If you notice the way he stepped in and rolled out and made some of those throws, that's the quick feat that I never knew Ben had. And he did it last week against Marshall as well, and he did it today. That's going to pay dividends because now first of all, it helps when you're able to do that. It takes a lot of weight off of an offensive line that's been struggling this year. But to the offensive line's credit, their pass protection has been fantastic these last few weeks. I thought their pass protection today was really effective. And on top of that, Ben was able to find a way to even when the pocket was closing in, to still step in and make throws. That's so important because it goes to show you that he's not fazed by pressure, by defensive blitzes and pressure. As far as I think we were talking about what you were talking about, special teams, the kicking game.
Yeah, we kind of made a comment based on what Carson said about the special teams, and 2 weeks in a row, I mean, just completely solid, fundamentally sound, did everything right. Reese was fantastic. The kickoff coverage was about as good as it's been all year tonight.
Well, first of all, Kenny, hats off to him once again. Key 43-yard field goal today to start the game. Fantastic. But also, one thing that I find is very important that we pride ourselves on is flipping the field. And I thought Reese did it again. His punts flipped the field a few times. He didn't really give too much leverage to Arkansas State, kind of extended their field position. So overall, no, you're right. Our kickoff team has been really good. I think our coverage was really good today. Arkansas State, outside of that one long return, which, Josh, as you know, I was screaming holding from all the way from the beginning until we finally saw a flag. They didn't really do much on the return game outside of that one play, which was called back anyway. So As long as if you pin, I mean, the opening kickoff, we pinned it back. Their return guy drops it. We pin them back on their own 2-yard line. That's how you set the tone. That's the importance of special teams right there, man, especially in kickoff coverage. You set the tone when you pin them way back, especially with an offense that's struggling like Arkansas State did today. So we got to keep doing that. We're going to have to do that against Georgia Southern. We're going to have to do that against Troy. We're going to have to do that against Florida State. I mean, we're going to have to do that every game, but especially games where you know your opposing offenses can score, that's when it becomes very important. And I think starting next week, especially Southern Miss, that we got to keep doing that, especially in the coverage.
One thing that's wild, and by the way, if you guys want to call in, we're going to start taking some calls from Twitter as soon as you guys request. And if you want to call, the numbers 337-761-6561. Call it up. Nick will take your call. We'll screen you in and get you on the show. Nobody's talking about the fact that the first 20 to 23 minutes of the game, we lived on their side of the football field. I don't know what our time of possession was for the game, but we literally got the ball at the 50, the 45, I think it was our 46 or 45 one time. The fact that we only scored 10 points in that first 23 minutes or so was amazing. And then we go ahead and almost drop 40 on them after that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, earlier in the game, I was getting pissed off because we had such prime field position and we were doing nothing with it. In fact, and then we started fumbling the ball. So yeah, I was pissed off earlier in the game, but glad to see we righted that. I forgot
about that fumble you were talking about. Remember what happened on that play? We almost hit Jefferson over the top, and then we had Jacob who did a similar. I think it was a similar deep post. Right there in the breadbasket, he makes the turn up, or maybe it was Errol. I can't remember.
Yeah, that was Rogers.
Was it
Rogers?
Errol?
Yeah.
So Errol grabs it, turns up field. I mean, dude, that was probably almost a 20-yard gain, 18-yard gain, fumble. That's super frustrating. You know how easy it would have been for that offense to get frustrated after that, and we only scored 10 out of so many great opportunities, and then look what happened. Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, I was going to say that was very hard to. It's weird because if you look at the first quarter and a half, we couldn't get anything going. Couldn't get a drive going, got a bunch of 3-and-outs, couldn't move the ball. And then all of a sudden, one or two big plays just breaks it wide open, and it was unstoppable from there. But just to quote, to answer your question, Josh, on the time of possession, we had the ball for 37 minutes. 37 minutes. And if you notice in the third quarter, between Arkansas State getting some 3-and-outs and the Cajuns getting some scoring drives together, it seemed like we had the ball for 12 out of those 15 minutes. It felt like it. I don't know if it was, but it felt like it. And you wore them down like that. So, yeah, 37 minutes, not bad. It's not bad at all. It's 2/3 of the game.
And that last 2 minutes felt like 37 minutes because Butch Jones down by 45 points or whatever. We were up by 20 or something. Is calling timeouts. And I get it. Look, I get it. You got some young guys on the field, but man, let's call it a day. Everybody wants to go home.
That dude was irate. At one point, Jerry was above me. I looked up at Jerry. I said, Jerry, look across the field and look at how red that man's face is.
Oh, yeah.
And he looked like the blueberry from Willy Wonka.
Yeah, he looks like he's turning into the Hulk when he gets pissed off. I have a great shot of him when they were playing Ohio State. He literally looked like Bruce Banner coming out and turning into the Hulk. It was something to watch.
He was fired up. And the call was very right. I mean, the guy held how many holding calls on the edge, dude? No, they called a few. It took forever for them to throw the damn flag. Like, guys standing in the end zone, officials like, well, I guess I'll throw this flag now. That happened 2 or 3 times. But Arkansas State's run game, they held on the edges the whole freaking night. I mean, it was very easy to see. Zion Hill-Green got held. It felt like every snap. I see Kripp is in the space. He'll make fun of me because I'm always calling holding on everything. But look, hey, when you grab somebody by the freaking face, it's a hole to me.
And there was on one of our it turned out to not be a touchdown, but it would have been a trash touchdown later in the game. I mean, there was such clear pass interference. The guy was running into our wide receiver, basically.
To Legendre.
Not allowing him to get to the ball. And the guy's like, nah, we're good. And then all of a sudden they start throwing flags. So whatever, man. At that point, it didn't matter. It's just, it's annoying when it's inconsistent. And it seems like that's what we just need to get used to.
It's the principle of the matter, man. I mean, the guy. No, seriously. I mean, the guy literally tackled Legendre in the end zone, and he was a much smaller guy. Lance looks around, and is like, "That's clearly a pass. It's not a pass interference. You got to be kidding me." Starts looking around, and Like where we were sitting, I sat in UD for the first time in years tonight, and people were going berserk.
It was
But
fun.
it was
wasn't
it was a good time.
It was a good time. Yeah, I was glad to come visit.
What do we always say? You know, the real fans sit in the upper deck. We've always said that. That's where all the real fans are. The blue collar fans.
That's right.
Let's go back to something Carson said. He said Southern Miss beat Arkansas State by 1 point. So not sure what to think of Southern Miss. Let's talk about Marshall. I mean, Marshall, it seems like, and I didn't watch the whole game, they pretty much dominated JMU at JMU.
Well, what happened? Did they win?
Marshall, yeah, they kicked their ass tonight.
I hope somebody was trailing on that pick that I had. I picked Marshall to beat them. I picked the money line, and I picked the points. So just saying, look, I'm not in the game anymore. I don't bet anymore, but
I'm in
still
Texas.
got a couple of tricks up my head.
They need to open that up to Texas, man.
Dude. We'll talk about the league after. I'm trying to make offense, special teams, and we can get to defense in just a minute because what else can you say? This is a nasty defense, folks. I mean, this is about as I know that 2020 defense was the peak of Billy Napier defense. First year of Patrick Toney. I think we ended the season 28th in overall defense, and I think in 21 it was 11th. But I still take that. I'll take that schedule in 2020. That defense was disgusting. I'm going to tell you all that I think that this secondary is exactly who we thought they were. They are as nasty as we thought they were. And now the defensive line is just flat out dominating football games. Now, again, I know they didn't have Blackman, and yeah, you could probably point to that, but they had no chance offensively at all. I mean, late into the third quarter, they could not get a first down. They had that one drive, middle of the second quarter, where they hit those couple big plays in the passing game, where Trey Amos was basically tripped over himself and fell asleep because they couldn't do anything else, and the defensive line was just eating. So I don't put that on Trey. I think Trey's an NFL corner, but we had a couple of lapses in I don't know if it was a missed assignment or what, a couple of blown coverage in the pass game on the same drive. Outside of that, and outside of trash time in the fourth quarter, they did nothing. They did nothing. This defense is the real deal. Thoughts on the defensive line, the secondary, and I think that Jordan Quibido probably played his best game as a Cajun tonight.
Look, I'm gonna just echo what you just said, but let's put it in perspective. I was just talking about Marshall and James Madison. Marshall beats James Madison 26-12 on the road at JMU. Leyburn, 151 yards and 2 touchdowns. Fancher, whoever their quarterback is, 159 yards and a touchdown. Now, he did throw 2 interceptions, but just, Gamage, one of their wide receivers, 107 yards and 1 touchdown. We shut him down last week.
That was big number 7. I think Gamage is big number 7. Yeah, he's
correct. Good. So yeah, we shut down Marshall last week, and they go on the road and beat James Madison, who's a top 25 team, a couple weeks ago.
Let me tell you something. As long as the defense keeps playing like this, as long as your front 7 is swarming to the ball against the rushing attack, as long as the secondary is just covering the receivers like glue and playing man coverage the entire game without being afraid to maybe give one up over the top every once in a while like we did today, as long as you do that, that will put you in every single game from here on out for the rest of the season, including Florida State. I'm actually looking forward to the matchup against Florida State's offense with this defense right now. I mean, look, you have not given up. I want to say in the last 2 weeks, you haven't given up more than 2 touchdowns, 14 points. Even against South Alabama, I think one of their scores came off of a turnover in our own territory, so that didn't really count. Yeah, I mean, even ULM, the game you lost against ULM, you basically spotted them the ball once at the 5-yard line. They didn't score 20 points. You really haven't given up 20 points in a long time since Rice. That's very impressive, especially when you're playing against teams that know how to score. You saw it in Marshall against a JMU team today that was in the top 25. This Arkansas State team, I asked Kara the other day, the offense could score points. Now, granted, Blackman didn't play, but they still have an elusive offense around him. I'm excited about this defense the next few games. I'm fired up to see what they can do because they're going to be challenged, man. They're going to be challenged, but they're up for it.
we talked about the fact that our defense had been turning people over, and the defense, along with good play, has been relying on the turnover. We lost the turnover battle tonight, and we blew out Arkansas State, who has been in many close games this year. I think that's something.
Let's look at the fact that our offense is finally giving our defense a chance to breathe, a chance to catch their breath, a chance to say, hey, we can be aggressive now and take chances because we got points on the board. Whereas earlier in the season, our defense was still playing crazy good, but we weren't supporting them offensively. So yeah, they're going to get worn down in the fourth quarter when they've been on the field the whole time. So if we continue the offensive progress that we have been, by the time we get to Florida State, it's going to be fun.
And I'm going to keep bringing up the conversation around the coaching staff. We still are learning. We're still progressing. But you can't question whether we hired the right defensive coordinator or not. Because all Lamar Morgan has done is go out and get better every single week. Look at this defense. Look at this linebacking core. Not only thumps, but now they're playing pass coverage. They didn't. Andre Jones said it best. And by the way, Andre Jones was a monster tonight. So shout out to Dre. I mean, fantastic. He had a couple of like shoestring tackles that if he doesn't make, the play goes for 10 more yards. So shout out to Andre. But this linebacking core in particular has gotten so much better. And look, you have the luxury of having a guy like Jordan Quibido coming in there and stabilizing that core. When you lose so much production out of Farad, you lose so much production out of McCaskill, who went to Kansas. Quibido was a walk-on, a special teams demon. That was your guy. And he is now your Mike linebacker, anchoring your linebacker crew for, I'm telling you, I guarantee you we've moved up in total defense after tonight. This is a top 25 defense in America. Forget G5. This is a top 25 defense in America behind Jordan Quibido at Mike linebacker, a preferred walk-on from Acadiana High School who played the majority of his snaps on special teams. That's a story I can get behind. And that's fantastic. So is Braylon. Braylon was also a walk-on. I think he was going to be a walk-on, and they ended up offering him late. But he had a pick tonight. And he's a star in that secondary. He's a thumper. He knows what to do in the back end, and he keeps everybody in line. This is a top 25 defense in America and has been for the last few years. But I think that this story this year, I think it's even more important to highlight how good they're playing. The ends were good. Zion Hill-Green, despite being held all night long, made an impact, and he has made an impact the last two games, living in the backfield. You got guys like Mason Narcisse, who we knew was talented, but we also know we knew he was raw. We knew he needed some reps. He's in on money downs. Sonny Hazard, who's full of talent, Jesuit grad, hat tip to Jerry.
That's right.
He's out there making impact plays. And we're down Weiser, who was an impact guy early. The defensive line has really come around, and they're controlling games. They're controlling football games right now.
But, that kind of comes from the Nick Saban model. I'll never forget every time I watch anytime you see Alabama play, and let's say Alabama gives up a drive where a team is getting in the red zone, they'll put 5 or 6 guys in the front 7 to replace them, just fresh blood out there. That kind of reminds me of what we're doing right now. It doesn't matter if you're if you're starting defensive end or defensive tackle or starting linebacker, if you're the second or third string, each player knows his role and knows how to perfect it or play close to it. And that's one thing that's been carrying this defense in the last 3 or 4 years, is that you have so many guys making plays, guys that you probably have never heard of before half the time, and they all step in at when it's needed to make that play. And that, to me, that's the value of what this defense has become. Every single player knowing his role in spite of maybe being a backup or a starter. And I think one of the things that worried me going in was, you had Ron Roberts and Patrick Toney. They kind of fed off of each other. And then in comes Lamar Morgan. He's not only picked up from where they've left off. To me, I think he's done an even better job than where they left off, because now you're without the Farad Gardners. You're without the Chauncey Manax. You have a few guys who got injured before the season started. You had some guys that ran into a few, academic issues. So you're playing with a defense that has some guys that had to step into those roles, and they've done just that. So, no, look, hat tip to Lamar. He's done a fantastic job this year as a defensive coordinator.
And Jerry, to build on what you just said a second ago, Nick Saban at Alabama, his first season, who'd they lose to? ULM.
Monroe,
Yes?
yeah.
First season at Louisiana, lost to ULM. We're winning natty, baby. It's
We're
coming.
going to be a
right.
dynasty. It's coming.
6 national championships coming right
It's
up in the
happening.
next 15 years.
Yes, sir.
It's a
And
sign.
look, to your point, he's doing it. Andre said it. There's a lot of guys that saw success from the sideline. They weren't the player on the field during the success. So Lamar has brought him into the fold and said, you're the guy. We're going to rally around you. Quib is a perfect example. Moncrief is another great example, and I hope he's okay because he's been a monster. Zion Hill-Green, I know he's battled some injury issues on the defensive line over his career, but they said, hey, you're going to be our anchor. We need you. And these guys are delivering. That tells me not only has Lamar been able to identify leaders, he has figured out how to get the best out of these players that not necessarily, again, were leaders on good defenses, but now they're going to be the key to continued success. Now, look, it makes it easier when Guerrer's on the right side and you got Trey on the left side and they're on an island over there. It gives these guys the opportunity to play press and they can be more aggressive. I totally understand that. But to his credit, he played way too much soft zone early. And some of that is, like you guys said, the offense was not giving them the opportunity to rest. They weren't staying on the field. They didn't give the threat to the opposing defense like, we're going to go down and get points. This defense now knows, hey, we have an offense that's going to get us some points. Let's go play. Let's go play with our hair on fire. Let's pin our ears back because they ain't going to run on us. Our defensive line they've matured. Look, that was game 6, right? Well, that was game 7. We're 4-3.
Yeah.
So they got 7 games of film. This defensive line has grown up a little bit. Now they're controlling things. They're dictating what offenses are going to bring to them. And now the linebackers and what I think is a top 25 secondary, I've said it from day one, now they are reacting. Look, Brandon Bishop had a good night tonight too. I never talk about Brandon Bishop, but at the star position, he was great tonight. Cam Pedesclo, a guy that I love on this podcast, mean, hard hitting. He hasn't been playing as many snaps. I don't think he's totally healthy, who is at this point, but he had a nice game tonight. Look, we have everything right in front of us. We're trending in the right direction. This defense is going to give us a chance to win any game we play in, and that is including Florida State. I don't care who's playing for Florida State. First of all, I'm not a big believer in Mike Norvell, and that's not a hater position. I just watch the guy coach, and I think, why? For what? Why are you doing that? I just don't like what the hell he does. He baffles me.
Well,
But this defense is going to give us an opportunity to win every game we play.
right. And not to think too far ahead, but I mean, look, you're going to know going into Florida State where we stand and whether or not we have a shot, because these next 3 games, going short week to Hattiesburg, the following week, you have a showdown against Troy and Georgia Southern, 2 back-to-back teams that play very well on the road. We're going to find out how well we play against Florida State, depending on those 3 games before that. But to your point, Josh, again, the defense is going to keep us in all 3 of those games. And I think what's great about this defense is we always talk about the hashtag culture. I think the defense personifies that because, like I said, it's knowing your role and stepping up when it's your time to go out in the field. And you talk about guys like Brandon Bishop, Cam Pedesclo. We know the names, but a lot of times, their play gets overshadowed by, guys like Eric Guerrer and others, and Zion Hill-Green and just to name a few. But again, the depth of this defense and what they've been able to do, especially at the defensive line, a young defensive line, might I add, a depleted defensive line at the beginning of the season, that's starting to gel now. Dude, I'm fired up. I'm fired up about the next couple games, seeing that.
Dude, we're not even playing with Weiser or Nelson or McGriff hasn't played. We got 3 guys that are contributors that haven't played. Narcisse is making a name. Again, Hazard, Hill-Green anchoring. I mean, we're playing basically bare bones on the defensive line, and we're still being able to rotate because guys are making plays. I mean, how could you not be excited about that?
I have a question for you guys. If you blow out Arkansas State at home and nobody's there to see it, did it really happen?
And I guess we'll transition into
Oh, jeez. The elephant in the room.
I had to bring it up, man. I've been holding it in for an hour. We got to talk about that.
Well, let me first say, that's fine. Let's transition into attendance. I thought that the gates, there was nobody there. All right. There's nobody there. There's nobody there. We counted like 56 students. Whoa. We counted like 56 students. The home side was pick a seat. The hill with all the Hellions was basically empty. When the Hellions don't show up, you got a problem. The free babysitting for 3.5 hours, everybody loves that. If you don't show up for that, you got a problem. But 15,000.
And look, we rail sometimes on the administration. Hey, you should do this, make it easier for people to get there. And when we have big crowds, we complain about the concessions and this and that and the other thing. But even if everything is crappy, 15,000, there's 500,000 people within a 100-mile radius of Lafayette. You're telling me 15,000 is the best we can do? That's disappointing, man.
Actually,
and that's not on the administration, because they promoted the hell out of this game. They had an F-16 flyover. They were giving stuff away. They were encouraging people to come right to the military. Like, it wasn't like they were, I don't know, man. I don't have answers anymore for this. It's embarrassing. And,
Jerry,
and I don't want to hear before you go on, I don't want to hear any of our fans giving crap to other fan bases about their attendance. I don't think we can't do that anymore until we get people in the stands.
We should never do that. Jerry, as a local, I might have a little bit of a different take, but I'm curious to what you thought about how today transpired.
Well, look, I told y'all last game, right? It took me 25 minutes to get through the gate because they bottlenecked the gate. Well, I entered through the same gate with my daughter, and of course, we got in a little bit earlier, about a half hour before. I think on the scoreboard it said like 28 to 29 minutes. But guess where the ticket scanners were? They were right by where you check the bags. They weren't at the gate, so they moved up to ease the line. So I tip my hat off there. I thought the way they were giving out those hand towels and everything, that was fantastic. I thought the promos were fantastic. But 15,000 fans. And look, I don't care if a school to the east was playing a team. I don't care if you had other things going on. Nick, I'm going to correct you a little bit. I think we have close to 700,000 people in a 100-mile radius. Heck, we may have over 1 million in a 100-mile radius. There's no reason why we shouldn't get less than 20,000 people with that many people in this area. I'm sorry. I know you have ESPN Plus. I know it's convenient to watch the game from home. I understand all of that. At the same time, you should still be able to find 20,000 people to attend your game, period. If Hattiesburg, Mississippi can attract 25 to 30,000, if Boone, North Carolina can attract 30,000, if Greenville, North Carolina at ECU can attract close to 45 to 50,000, the list goes on and on. I can name so many different schools in our situation that can attract more people with less population. There's no reason why we should be attracting no less than 20,000, 15,000 today with the weather and the military appreciation. Again, I don't care who was playing close by. I don't care. Actually, I'm just getting a text message. 32-mile radius of Lafayette, 845,000 people. And all you can get is 15,000.
Holy hell. There's no way that's right.
That is a crying shame.
What kind of radius are we doing here?
I don't know, but that's what I was told. I could be wrong.
800,000.
But it's close. I'll just say, and
that's like HUD math.
Within a 50-mile radius, you're probably close to 1 million people. 50 to 60-mile radius. It doesn't matter. Should not be less than 20,000.
Hey guys,
I just want to say,
I hate to cut you off. I think we got
go ahead.
Kyle. Do you mind if I put him through?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do
Kyle,
it.
Can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. You're on.
Well, what a game. I tell you what, couldn't have been any better weather for football. That was a nice evening this evening, and it was a nice outcome. So I don't know. I thought about what I was going to say when I called or whatever, what I was going to write or this or that, but I could tell you guys something. I think the main thing that happened tonight is we, the fans, were vindicated, finally for once, for doing the right thing. Can you hear me?
Loud and
Yes,
clear.
indeed.
Loud and
You're
clear,
telling me,
man.
you're telling me pick up the volume, but can y'all hear me?
No, I was telling Nick to pick up the volume on the master
Hey.
sound. You're good, Kyle.
Y'all got me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyway, I was just saying, it was nice to see the fans that don't know anything get vindicated for once. We obviously Ben went out there and vindicated we the people, we the little people, the people who don't know anything, the people who we only look at the small sample size. Finally, we have been vindicated for once. So if for no other reason I like Ben, I'm going to like Ben for that reason. Is that okay?
I think that's great, Kyle. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like Ben. Ben was my choice at the beginning of the season. I just don't like the way the whole quarterback situation was handled. I just thought we needed to go with one or the other.
Oh, I agree. And if it had been Chandler, I would have still agreed. I mean, the thing is, there are certain people who have been on certain radio programs this week who have talked about the fans, our total lack of understanding of what's going on because, we don't have any patience. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, and we're only worrying about small sample size. We want to make our total judgment out of small sample size. My question is what in the hell could even be a smaller sample size than giving one guy 2 series to produce and then giving the other guy 1 series to produce? And if they don't produce, well, either they're no good or they're good. Their whole career is based on what they do in 1 or 2 series. I'm going to tell y'all something. I knew Ben could do this. 5 touchdowns. And you know good and well, you guys know good and well as I do, if he doesn't get pulled and that starting offense stays in that game another 2 series, you would have probably seen at least 1 or 2 more touchdowns put on the board by that football team. They could have named their score tonight. But a guy like Ben, who's a big, strong football player, he gets amped up. He goes in the game. He's amped up. Sometimes maybe a little too amped up. He's going to maybe overthrow a few passes to start out with. He's got to be able to have time to settle down, get lathered up, get into the flow of things, and then you start seeing what kind of a player he is. That's what happened at in the Arkansas State game. That's what happened in the game last week against Marshall. And here again this week, we saw pretty much the same exact thing. If you're going to hurt him, and if you're going to do damage to him, you better do it to him in them first 2 or 3 series. Because after that, woe be unto you. Because once he starts kicking it in and he starts meshing with his receivers, I don't know, what was his final stats? What was his final quarterback rating?
His final quarterback rating, you're going to love this, man. His final quarterback rating was 188. He was 21 for 34, 315 yards, and 5 touchdowns. 188 rating.
And no picks, correct?
That is correct.
It's kind of hard. And didn't he sit? When did they pull him out of the game? Did he even play a full series in the fourth quarter?
I don't think so, guys. Was it? I think they pulled him in the fourth. I think he had 1 series in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think it was the first quarter, the
Okay.
first series
so you
of the
got
fourth
a guy
quarter.
who basically played 3/4 of a football game, and he threw for 315 yards and 5 touchdowns in his second start
Correct.
as your quarterback. That
Correct. And I think he's thrown a
I
combined.
don't even have to say anything. What can I say to even add to that? I mean, what needs to be said to add to that?
You're just a
And then
dumbass
on
fan,
top of
Kyle.
that,
You don't know anything.
You talk about that defense. You talk about how good they are. Y'all are correct. I'm going to tell y'all something right now, okay? I really enjoyed watching the Cajuns play defense last year and the year before that. And I'll tell you what, I thought last year was the best defensive team the Cajuns ever had. But I got to tell you guys, it's not. This year is the best defense the Raging Cajuns of the University of Louisiana has ever had. And they're proving it on the football field. And they're getting better every week. Now, they didn't have a lot of turnovers this week, granted, but they romped and stomped. They totally controlled that football game. Outside of one series, they had, Arkansas State had that one series. I made the mistake of going to the bathroom. By the time I went to the bathroom, and Arkansas had a first down on their own 15-yard line. Time I come out, they're scoring a touchdown. I'm like, what did you guys what happened? I mean, I get back outside and they're scoring a touchdown. I'm like, what in the world's going on here? But other than that, that football team, that defense played lights out. And, they gave up the one trick play, which, was a field goal. When a team is pulling their trick play out of the hat in the second quarter, you got them. Okay. The game is in hand at that point. This football team right now, the way they are right now, and I know Arkansas State is not a great football team. Neither was ULM a great football team. This football team right now is becoming what they're going to be the rest of the season. And with Ben as the quarterback and the way they're starting to run the football, what was that running game? What did we do in our running game tonight?
Insane. We had 206 yards of rushing spread among, it looks like we had 4 running backs who had either right around 50 yards each. So yeah, they spread it to four different running backs tonight.
Nick, what was the total attempts?
4 running backs, 50 yards apiece. How many carries?
50 carries.
50 carries for 200 and something yards. Yep. 200 and a little bit.
Average just
at 200
at 4 yards a carry, basically, it averaged.
Yeah. And basically, your whole first string went out of the game with almost a whole quarter left to go in the game. I mean, we easily could have rolled up 600 yards. Easily. So right now you have what your team is going to be the rest of the way. And so when fans get upset about something sometimes, like people were getting upset about the way that what they were seeing develop because there wasn't a decision being made, maybe we're not wrong. Maybe we might have a reason to be upset. Maybe we do understand a little bit about the way the game is supposed to be played. I'm just guessing. I mean, I don't know. But, I mean, did Ben maybe prove that if you leave one guy in there and you give him the opportunity to really take control of your football team, and he's right. I mean, and maybe Chandler would have been the right guy too. Maybe neither one was a wrong choice, but you had to make a choice. And now we see what we're going to have the rest of the way. And I'll tell you right now, guys, I had a feeling this was going to be a blowout.
You called it, no doubt.
Actually, I said I thought 33-7, I think, was the score I predicted, but I had a feeling it could get a lot worse than that. And the truth is, if we left our guys in there, it would have got a lot worse than that. But we got a game coming up
Nick,
in 5 days, 6 days, or a short week. What night are they playing USM?
Hey,
Kyle. Wednesday or Thursday?
Hey, Kyle, I hate to cut you off. You can't hear the guys' responses, so let's wrap this up, and I'll get them to respond to your comments. Do you mind that?
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Look, but anyway, you got a game in 5 days. They got it. Guys didn't need to go out there and play a full 4 quarters of football. Let them, you had a nice, easy win. Now you're ready to go to USM, and you're ready to, you should be all cylinders operating, all systems go. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm looking for a similar performance. Not much different than what I saw tonight is what I believe we're going to see at USM. Y'all have a good night, guys.
Thanks, Kyle.
We'll talk about it later.
We
Bye.
appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. Guys, he's been saying what we've been saying all night.
No, it killed it. Kyle, appreciate the comments. Excellent comments. By the way, anybody that
Yes.
wants to get into the show, please request to speak or call the hotline. We'll flash the number again. We have a very good comment up, but before we go to that, I just want to say, to his point about the fact that we scored 38 points and dominated offensively, how many times have we missed, and Jerry and I were talking at this time, how many times do we have a wide open tight end just walking down the field? How many? Look at Dante Fleming. I want to say it was early in the third quarter, who was wide open on almost the same route that he caught his first touchdown on. There were still opportunities that left. And look, this is no knock on Ben because I love the way Ben played, but there were still opportunities. How bad was Arkansas State defensively? I don't know. They only gave up 20 last week. They only gave up 27 or 29 to ODU, who hung 49 on the vaunted COVID chickens. So I don't know. But what I'm saying is that we're creating opportunities for ourselves. We're putting opportunities on tape, whether it be in the tight end room, whether it be running crisp routes in the wide receiver room, whatever the case is. We have opportunities to score points, and that is going to soften up defenses going forward. If we can continue to have that running game, and our friend Brian Benton checked in earlier. And by the way, Brian, thanks for listening for a football show. Usually a baseball guy, but I appreciate you checking in. If the passing game is going to open up the running game, that's just fine with me because we've got the talent back there. You saw it tonight. But I think if we can find some semblance of a consistent running game, Ben Woolridge becomes all the more dangerous. And that wide receiver room that we've been bragging on for 12 months, they start to shine all over again. I will go back to the Fleming. Fleming was open all night long. Errol Rogers was open out of the slot all night long. He only got a couple of opportunities on targets, but he was open. We are creating opportunities. And again, I'm going to go back to the coaching staff. They got ripped early. And I don't give a damn what happened against ULM and Rice right now. That's in the past. We're looking ahead. Right now, we're creating opportunities for our guys to make plays. Now it's time for individual players to execute and go out and make plays. Nick, you take it.
Man, again, we're just saying what we said earlier tonight is that when we execute as we can, we have the talent is there. But when we're executing and firing on all cylinders, there's not another team on our schedule that can beat us. If we come out playing like we did against Rice and ULM, there's not another team that we play on the schedule that can't beat us. So, as long as we execute, as long as we do what we continue to do and improve every week, both coaching wise and play wise, I'm excited about the rest of the season. And by the way, we still have a chance to win the West. I know it's a long shot, but we're still in the hunt. So we cannot let off the gas at any point the rest of the season.
With Troy's win on Thursday or Wednesday, whatever that was, that opens up the West. It opens up the West. And Jerry, I'm gonna let you go, but Raging Review is very pro player. We go after coaches way more than we go after players, if ever. But you can't talk about the coaches not setting up players to make to have opportunities and make plays. The players are being given the blueprint. It's time for somebody. Look at what Terrence Williams did tonight. They gave him the opportunity, and he went out and made some sort of a path for himself. We need more of that. We need more guys stepping up, making plays. They're being put in the position. It's time for execution. Got to see it.
And not to sound arrogant as a fan, but I think our talent supersedes a lot of teams in the Sun Belt Conference. And to me, if you execute, and today's a prime example, right? We struggled offensively maybe at the first quarter and a half, but once we started making those plays, once we started scoring some touchdowns, once it became 24-9 before halftime, I knew the game was over. I knew it. This game is over. They're not coming back. Our defense is too strong for them to score. Offensively, we're clicking on all cylinders. That's the advantage we have with our particular football team, is that we do have enough talent. We do have enough athleticism to where if we jump to a double-digit lead on you, it's the odds of you coming back against us are very, very small. Outside of that Monroe game, which we basically we flew Z'd on 2 of our plays where we made bad snaps, we couldn't
We
score.
We
We
gifted
gifted them opportunities. If we don't do those things, there's a very, very small chance that teams can come back on us and win. So that's a weapon that we can use. It's just a matter of execution. Once you execute and you jump to a decent lead against some of these other teams, especially in conference, they're not going to come back against you. So that's where I think that's to your point about execution. That's why I also think it's important, because I think our talent can carry us the rest of the way on top of the coaching that goes with it, which, by the way, I think even though this coaching staff is still learning, Josh, I find that their learning curve is getting a lot smaller, because I can tell they're stepping into their roles a lot more effectively, especially these last 2 games. I mean, Mike.
Well, that's why I keep making comments about it. What are you going to say about Lamar? What are you going to say about Dez tonight? You want to say that offensive game plan wasn't spot on? It was absolutely perfect.
Mike's play calling these last 2 weeks, and I'm not saying it because we won, but it's his play calling that has put us in position to win. So, and kudos to the other assistants that have helped in this situation. But even though it's a learning curve, I think that learning curve again is decreasing, and you're starting to kind of all see it come to fruition. Dez kept saying how close we were. We're close. We're close. We're close. And as fans, you really don't want to hear that. Because being close, Jim Mora, with his famous coulda, woulda, shoulda speech, he said, being close don't mean squat. He's like, I'm tired of being close, because close, you're still losing games. But once you get there, and I think we're starting to get there, to win tonight like we did, you're 4-3, you're back, you're over 500 now. You're 2-2 in the conference with a chance to make a run. You got a Southern Miss team that looks pretty beatable next week. And plus, look, we have a history with Southern Miss. We haven't beaten them since 1993, I believe, or 1994. Look, as a longtime Cajun fan, I want this game. I don't care how bad Southern Miss is. I remember those 48-0 schlackings. I remember losing to them in the 90s, and when they were what we were in the last couple of years, when we were terrible. I remember those games. I want this game on Thursday as a lifelong Cajuns fan. I know for a fact there's a lot of Cajun fans that have been around long enough that know exactly what I'm talking about.
I had to run those damn games on the board at
Nick,
ESPN 1420.
Nick was he had to remember that. And here's the thing. It doesn't matter, regardless of, you could be a neutral fan. Louisiana, USM, primetime, Thursday night, ESPN. Who's not watching that? That's a game I want to watch. It's a game I want to watch if I'm from Texas or Idaho or freaking Kentucky. Who cares? That's a good matchup. That's a great G5 football game. USM on the up, Louisiana kind of, scuttling to find each other themselves, and finally think this looks like the light has gone off. I mean, that's good football. That's good football. That's not Maction on Tuesday. I know I always shit on Maction. I feel bad about that.
Hey, just get ready. But let's get our drinking game ready. As to how many times they mentioned Napier during our game against Southern Miss.
I just can't wait to get past
We'll be drunk by halftime. We'll be drunk by the second quarter.
Second series. These guys are so lazy. Aaron Murray was the worst, though. By far, that was the worst I've heard.
Or we'll hear about how Southern Miss left Conference USA to go to the Sun Belt, and the new members of the Sun Belt, and how happy they are to be new members of the Sun Belt, and how they talk about the fans talking about
Jerry,
how they're new members of the Sun Belt.
Jerry, you know how everybody rips us off? Wouldn't it be so sick if they played the Tommy McClellan video? Would you shoot through the top of your roof?
Oh my god!
They ripped us off again.
Actually, I just wish they'd get Keith Gill in one of those little baby Jeeps on the field. That would be legit at halftime.
Man.
So bringing it back to the conversation we were having before Kyle called in, which, by the way, Kyle, thanks for calling. Twitter space, been quiet tonight. Andy, I see you there. Darren, I see you. Jack, I see you. You guys chime in. You all have good things to say. Kevin, Chris, I see all you. Let's hear from you. Terry's he's not hogging up the airtime tonight. He's probably working right now, but you guys chime in. We like to hear your thoughts, and we'd love to hear other fans speak on their experience. But the fact that we had 15,000 people at Cajun Field tonight it's easy to forget that Arkansas State dominated the West for a while before we kind of took the baton and continued to dominate over a 4 or 5 year period. People forget that Anderson and Gus Malzahn and Harsin and all these guys that ran through. They forget about that. But I don't remember our players getting their faces spit at. I don't remember the Twins getting their legs gone after on special teams. I don't remember those. I don't forget those fights that were taking place on the field right in front of the benches, and the fans were getting ready to jump the stands. Like, I don't remember that. I still hate Arkansas State.
Oh,
Beating the hell out of Arkansas State makes me feel good. It doesn't matter how bad they are this year.
I
don't care about any of that. I want to kick their ass, and we did that tonight. And we did it in front of nobody, and I hate that. How comfortable you bastards have become.
I think, look, I haven't forgotten about the time whenever the Larry the Cable Guy clone came into our section in Jonesboro and talking about, you're not LSU. And I'm like, dude, what does that have to do with anything? Like, dude, guy starts talking smack. Well, I got some news for you, Larry the Cable Guy clone. This is the 5th year in the row that we've beaten you. So you're not Arkansas. Boom.
Also,
take that to the house.
You can't spell LSU, so stop talking to me.
Man, he's still pissed off about this guy from 5 years ago.
Jerry holds a grudge like Khomeini. He doesn't care.
This was from 2011, Nick. This was from 11 years ago. This was the game. This was HUD's first year. We went up to Jonesboro with a chance to win the conference, and the guy just comes up to our sections and starts talking smack. Guys got overalls and everything, and I didn't forget that, and I haven't forgotten today. And just, again, this is the 5th straight time we have beaten Arkansas State. So, Josh, I'm sure, and you as well, Nick, that there is a very deep satisfaction in that little fun fact for you.
Well,
I hate those
he's
bastards.
Probably still living with his sister wife up in Jonesboro, so he's not
Nick,
thinking about you tonight.
Nick, you know how Notre Dame has a play like a champion thing that they slap every time Jerry walks out his front door. He slaps a picture of that guy talking shit about.
No, but going back to your comments, and I know this isn't about attendance, but I did want to say Arkansas State tonight was talking trash the whole game. I don't know if you guys saw it in the stadium, but obviously me in Houston, I was watching it on the stream, and those guys were in our dudes' faces. They were pushing. They were no cheap shots, but they were really trying to get under their skin. And it was really intense. Yeah, and I was really happy to see that we walked away from it, because third game of the season, we would have responded and made stupid penalties and mistakes. So that was good to see tonight. I wanted to comment on that earlier, but I kind of forgot.
I agree. There was a couple of times, especially after special teams, they were getting after it, and I was just like, please don't. And they didn't, to their credit. Yeah. By the way, did we ever find out who 22 was? He's no longer Jaron Wilson. So did we find out who 22 was? I know I looked back at Jerry and was like, who the hell is 22?
Yeah, he played a lot tonight. I feel so bad for not doing that. But you know what?
He was a demon on special teams. That's why I wanted to highlight him.
I was going to say, I'm going to look it up right now because he deserves a shout out. Seemed like he was one of those guys that just flew to the ball tonight on defense.
Everybody did work. Everybody did work. You know, again, Neil Johnson made a couple of nice catches.
Patrick Mensah.
Dude. Yeah. Hey, by the way, friend of the pod, he sent me a couple messages recently talking about how much he loves the pod.
He changed his number.
He's a very smart man. A very smart man.
Very good player, too.
All right. Hang on, folks. We have a request from the space tonight. Been very quiet.
That's been quiet.
Mr. James Carrier, the floor is yours, sir. Please elaborate on your thoughts from tonight.
What's going on, you heathens?
Oh, man, making
What's
it
up,
work.
Poo-Poo?
Making it work.
Our boy Poo
That's great.
in the house.
I wanted to say, when I was in high school and first started driving, had a friend of mine who had a car. And when you start this car up, can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Loud and clear, dude.
Okay. So when you'd start this car up, man, and took off, it would sputter and you know, it took a while to get going, you know? And so, you know, we had a lot of talent on this team post the Napier apocalypse. It's just a lot of guys, a lot of talent that didn't have reps. And we're 7 games in now, and you're starting to see those guys find themselves. They're starting to get in this rhythm. Josh, you talked about how, you know, we started to see, you know, even though we didn't capitalize on some of these guys that were wide open, we're seeing this now. Now we're seeing guys get open. We're seeing them, you know, not miss assignments like they were in the beginning. And so that's a good sign that these guys just needed the reps, that they're being coached, you know, they're getting confident. And I think we only get better from here. We from this point on, I think we're just going to find a more rhythm.
James,
you know,
do you see what I said though? Do you see that the progression is obvious from game 3 to game 4 to game 5 to game 6? Like, do you see what I see as far as the progression being completely obvious to not even a football fan, just people watching the games?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, I can definitely. I don't even think you have to be much of a football fan to see that. Um, like I said, I mean, how much were we talking post game about guys just missing assignments or just um, you're just not seeing that anymore. You weren't even hardly seeing guys get open. Now there's guys that are open that aren't getting thrown to because there's another guy open that got thrown to first or what have you. So
Yes.
without question, I mean, I think it's been a pretty steep curve from those games. I mean, this game to me, I mean, it was almost like you can just relax now. You know what I mean? Like it's like, okay, they got it now. They understand. These guys have found their rhythm. They found themselves. They found a cohesiveness that they didn't have before. My only question at this point is what happens when Chandler comes back? That's really my only question is how they handle that. And I'm not sure if you guys have any thoughts to that, but.
Well, I'll first say that I agree with you that there was some level of uncomfortability where did we just go out to Marshall and have one of those aberration performances? Did we go to Marshall and Marshall just totally collapsed? I don't know if you saw anything about what Marshall did today, but they went out and showed out. They beat the hell out of a good opponent. So how good are we? Like, there's so many things about this league that you can't figure out, but specific to the Cajuns, was this going to be one of those performances where they remembered, the clock struck 12 and there was a shoe left at the dance and we turned into a pumpkin? Or was this who we are? Are we really continuing to get better and better and better? And what I think tonight kind of solidified to me as a fan who watches every snap, I think that we got it. I think that we're on the right track. Everybody can go out and have a good performance. Everybody can get lucky. They can get their assignments because they dominated a weaker player. That happens all the time. But I think as a whole, this was a team win tonight. This wasn't somebody getting lucky. This wasn't somebody just having a game against a better matchup. The guys went out and had a full, in all three phases, team performance. And I'm most excited about that because it's coming off of a road victory against a team that we all kind of circled as a maybe loss. So to me, it signifies to me that, yeah, we got it. Like, this train is rolling. You better get on it now because it's a freight train. Get on now.
Right. And this is what I wanted to see. Like you said, Josh, that Marshall game, I wasn't quite sure. Like, look, are we putting it together or did we just have one of those games? Did Marshall just not play well and we just had a good night?
Yes.
This was what I was waiting to see. I think most people were, look, when they made the Des hire, I was not a fan. But, of course, I'm a Cajuns fan, so you got to let it play out. This is what I was waiting to see. The team is obviously getting better. You know what I mean?
James,
so this.
I was just going to say, James, I think we saw it during South Alabama. We should have won that game, but I think that's the turning point for me where it looks like in their heads it just started to click. Like, this is us. We can actually hang with South Al. And South Al has, now they lost to Troy, but they're a good team. So I think that was, to me, where it started to click for our team. And then every week, like you said, just progressively is starting to get better each and every week. That's all we wanted to see from the first game on.
I think. Go ahead, James.
No, go ahead, brother.
Well, I was going to say, I think if you play South Alabama today, we win. That's the thing. And that's it's frustrating when you look back because you realize, like, it's one of those, it's kind of like Iowa State, right? We go to Iowa State, we pretty much spank them. And then you see Iowa State make this run to the point where they're literally one game away from a college football playoff if they win that Big 12 championship. I'm sure a lot of their fans look back when they beat Oklahoma in Ames. I think it was like week 6 or week 7. And they're looking back going, man, I wish we wouldn't have played like this against Louisiana. No telling where we'd be playing them. But it is what it is. And when we played them, we won the game. I think it's kind of the same thing with us right now because you look back at that Rice game, you look back at that ULM game, and you look back at that South game. The way we play today, we go 3 for 3 against those teams, in my opinion. And I think now, to your point, what you were saying, Josh, about how we finally kind of hit the mark at the right time. This 5-day turnaround and going to Hattiesburg, to me, is going to tell us a lot because you're on the road. Apparently, the students at Southern Miss get a day off of school, so they're all going to be at the Rock. at Roberts Stadium in Hattiesburg. They're going to be packing that place up. It's going to be an intense environment. If we can block out that noise and win that game and win it pretty convincingly, you get a 9 or 10 day break, or you get a 9-day break before Troy at home. That's when I'll know, okay, like we're for real now. Like that hashtag culture has come back, and I think it's back now. But it's going to be a test in the next 5 days.
Go ahead, James. It's yours.
When Napier left here and they hired Dez, the talk was we hired him to keep the culture. And I think when we started to lose, and people say, "Oh, well, we lost our culture. This is the reason we hired him, was to keep the culture." And this is something I never even realized until today. You can keep the culture and lose your identity, and you can keep your culture and create a new identity. I don't think we've lost the culture. We're just creating a new identity for a new coach and a new team. Does that make sense?
100%. Every year, depending on your roster, you're going to have a different thing that you do very well. And credit to Brian. He made the comment about the passing game opening up the running game. And in years past with Levi, it was the running game opening up the passing game. We have to be sophisticated enough fans to recognize the difference. And it's a great point about culture. Culture is embedded. Culture is, what do we expect here? What do we accept here? What is the floor for what we expect here? That has not changed. And people can say what they want about Dez. He's softer. He's a player coach, blah, blah. None of that matters. The culture has not changed. A lot of those guys were still on those teams that experienced all of that success. Those guys didn't forget what it looked like to win. They didn't forget what it looked like to wake up and work hard for 12 and 14 hours a day and put it all in. That's still there. The identity, I agree with you. That probably has changed.
And let me clarify what I just meant about the culture coming back. I think the culture never left. I don't mean by the culture just left. What I mean by the culture coming back is us actually showing that it's there. That's kind of what I mean. And I guess that's what you're alluding to, Josh, when you say identity, because look, without the culture, you don't win in Marshall last week. Part of this culture is learning how to face adversity when your back's against the wall. And I think we've done that in the last 2 weeks. But to my point about winning in Hattiesburg, when I talk about the culture really coming back, I'm talking about the culture really showing out, like showing everybody that, okay, we're still that same team that we've always been. It's just sometimes you have a bump in the road. Sometimes you may get a flat tire. I think these last 3 weeks, hopefully, is just a flat tire on the road to maybe something bigger. And so, again, I keep going back to it, but this Southern Miss game coming up, it's a 5-day turnaround. It's going to be a test for us, but I think these guys are up for it. Now, I think after tonight, they know, okay, we are for real. Now you just got to go out and show it next week. You just got to go out and show it Thursday night.
Thank you guys for having me on. I'll let somebody else get in. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, James. Thanks for listening.
Appreciate it, James.
If anybody wants to get on, please request to speak. We'll get you in. Jacob, go ahead, bud.
Hey, can y'all hear me all right?
Yes, indeed.
Loud and clear.
Hey, so I had to watch this game on my phone tonight because I'm at a wedding in Columbia, Louisiana. So if you know where Columbia, Louisiana is, shout out to you because this is in the middle of nowhere.
Sounds like a DUI trap. So be safe.
Thank you. But I come on this space every week and I talk about the same thing. And I'm going to say it again this week. Shout out to Lamar Morgan and our defense. Holy crap, fellas. I mean, our defense looks outstanding. The fact, and I know that Arkansas State isn't some big offensive prowess. Like, they're not in the top 3 in Sun Belt offense, but our defense shut them down. And I said this last week, but every week the defense just impresses me more and more. A lot of the reason behind that too is that it's different guys. It's a real team. It's not just one guy stepping up every week. It's different guys always doing it. I don't know what the stat was, but like going into last week, I don't know, Jerry or Nick, y'all always look at the stats, but we've had like a ton of different players on defense get interceptions, right?
Yeah. Sharing the wealth. Nick's going to probably try to pull that up there, but look at tonight. Braylon got another pick. I think Braylon was the only pick tonight, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
We ended up, Jacob, we ended up losing a turnover battle tonight, but to me, that was even more encouraging. We talked in the pregame. Can our defense consistently stop a decent offense? Now, look, we didn't know Blackman wasn't going to play, but can this defense consistently stop an offense that has real skill positions? Johnny Lang was named to the midseason All-America team by CBS Sports. He's an all-purpose type guy, but they have some capable wide receivers. Could we stop them without winning the turnover battle? I think you got your answer tonight.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm just impressed with the defense. I talked about it all season, how I think our defense has really stepped up and kept us in a lot of games. But shout out to the offense for really clicking tonight. I'd love to see it. There's a guy. He's one of my wife's. His wife is one of my wife's friends, so we always talk at all these weddings. And he's a big sports guy, coaches high school football, and he even put money on the Cajuns tonight. And he knew that we were going to go off tonight. So I think, and he's a guy from across the Basin Bridge. So for him to put money on us, it just shows like people know who we are and know that, what James had said earlier, like our culture is still there. And I loved how you identified that, our identity has changed and how we played tonight. I loved it. You've heard me come on here and talk all the time. Oh, we need to be more exciting on offense. We need to throw the ball more. Holy crap. Ben Woolridge threw 5 touchdown passes tonight. That was awesome to watch. And I was watching it during the wedding, one of those guys.
Educating the masses, Jacob. We expect nothing less from you, sir. So good job in Columbia, Louisiana.
Yeah. Chiming in. But looking forward to the rest of the season. Love it. Love to see what Cajun Athletics is doing across the board. I saw volleyball win a couple nights ago, and our soccer team is really pushing towards the Sun Belt playoffs. And I hope we can clinch that spot in the coming days/weeks. So a lot is on the up. Love y'all covering it, and I'm always even when I'm at a wedding, Josh. Look at me. Even when I'm at a wedding out of town, I'm chiming into the space. How about that?
True Cajun fan.
You're one of the good ones, Jacob.
Cajuns fan.
Hey, keep being you, man. Buddy. Absolutely. Thank you for listening, bud.
All right. Have a good night, fellas.
All right. Be safe. Watch out for 5-0.
Hey, I want to go back to what Jacob said about the number of players having an interception. And I knew that a few different players had interceptions this season. So, but didn't realize that 10 different players have had interceptions this season. Braylon Trahan leads with 3. The rest each have 1. That's unbelievable.
That's fantastic. I mean, talk about spreading the wealth.
But that's what he was saying. Like, there's not one player that is taking over the defense. I mean, Braylon, obviously, he leads with interceptions, but it really is the defensive cohesiveness. They really spread the wealth, and they all contribute. So that's what's so good to see is that it's always next man up. Who's going to come in and fill that hole?
Jerry will remember this. When Napier got here, he told everybody that would listen, I'm going to make this a great secondary. Because Nick Saban made his Alabama defense a great secondary first. That was the first thing that he did. And what is Nick Saban by trade? A defensive back. So that is the pedigree, and that's how it started. And look at the dividends that it's played, especially in this league. You can dominate football games from the back end. That can't be lost on people. Guys, by the way, appreciate the participation. If anybody has anything to say, please request. We'll get you right in. Crippa, if you're on the road, please request to speak. I know you have some insight. I know you watched the game a little bit differently because you were a former player. If you do have 5 minutes, get in with us. Terry, I see you were able to join. Always love your comments. Before we do that, and I much prefer talking football than talking about the other stuff, but 15,000 is an embarrassment. I'm not getting on our fans. I'm getting on the administration because it is incumbent upon the person selling the product to sell it to the client. It is not the client's obligation to buy the freaking product. I don't care what goes on across the basin. I don't care about that. And none of us in this area, you guys want to talk about 800,000 people in a 50-mile radius, 32-mile radius, whatever it was. If you sell the identity of being a Raging Cajun and why you should be proud to come to this stadium and represent this school and this football program, you sell that properly. And then once you get those folks inside of your gates and you treat them like you, Nick, like you would treat your parents coming to visit you in Houston, or Jerry, when your parents come in from Florida and hang out with you, or the way that I treat our parents when we hang out and cook for them, we treat them like they're our guests. We treat them like we want them there, but not here, not in this football stadium. We treat them like they're a problem, or we treat them like, you know what? It doesn't matter if you come or not. Until we fix that, until we start treating people like they're our guests and we want them to come back, it'll never change. 15,000, beautiful weather, does not matter. I was one of the ones that boycotted Golf Brew because of their foolish promotions, but I'm the kind of person who votes with my wallet. I'm a vote with my wallet type of guy. I'm not going to your damn event. If you are promoting the corn dog game and the other school over there, I'm not interested in your product. Sorry, I don't care how good your beer is. I'm going to stay on the campus grounds. I'm going to the football game. I'm doing that stuff. I don't care about your damn event. We got to do a better job of treating our fans like they matter to us. Until we get that right, we're never going to have the return crowd. It's just never going to happen. Terry Johnson, thank you for requesting, sir. I know that you had a little bit of difficulty because of, I don't know, I guess, what is it? Like the middle of the day for you? It's like 6? You just getting off of work? Go ahead, T.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, yep. Hey, I watched the first half on my phone. Sorry. I was just listening to the first half like I was on a flight, so I couldn't watch it. Wi-Fi on the flight was horrible. So I just had to follow. And
first world problems, Steve.
Hey, I know, right? So get off the plane. I just see Ben Wooldridge throw a beautiful pass, his fifth touchdown pass. I'm like, man, actually, it was okay. It wasn't beautiful, but it's the fact that he threw 5 of them. I was going crazy. This is exactly what I wanted from the offensive line. I still think that there's things we can get good as far as the running backs. I don't know if y'all talked about the running backs as far as them seeing the holes. Like we could have a great, just an outstanding running game if they just break a tackle. If they break a tackle, a lot of those, plays could go for like 20 more yards if they can just break a tackle. But they're young, so I'm gonna forgive them. I'm happy for Ben. I'm happy for Coach Dez. And as far as the attendance issues goes, hey, I'm not saying this is the reason why, but when I was a player, I hated that we filled in the south end zone with those seats. I hated it. And it just makes everything else not fill up as much. You know what I'm saying? So I wish we had just not done that, and it would make the stadium look a lot better. But I can't wait till the renovation comes. When that comes, I feel like hopefully it won't look as empty. But yeah, like you said.
Oh, hey, Josh, when the renovation happens, dude, you ain't got to worry about anything because it's going to be the place to be for 6 months. And everybody in Lafayette and Crowley and Rain and Eunice, they're going to show up until they get tired of it and they start calling their friends and talking shit. That's how it goes. I mean, that's just how it works.
Oh, exactly.
But T, what did you see out of the running game specifically from the offensive line that made you believe? What did you see?
I saw a hat on a hat, and I, as far as that, like, did they surge past the line of scrimmage and, establish the line of scrimmage as far as pushing one guy 2 or 3 yards deep? No, I didn't see that, but I did see a guy on a guy, which is good. I just want to see somebody finish the block and pancake people. That's what I want to see. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't really see missed assignments. But like I said, like as soon as the running back gets to the second level or third level, he's got to break a tackle.
Hey, so we made the joke that the running backs, when they would get to the second level, they were looking back at the sideline saying, "Coach, what do we do now? We've never been past the line. What do we do now?"
Like just make a play, man. Make a play.
Yeah, no, I thought the running back room as a whole was fantastic, but I really thought that the offensive line came with an extra level of physicality tonight.
They did, man. I'm proud of those boys. Hopefully they keep it going. And Southern Miss, man, they're a pretty good defensive team. I've been keeping track of them. They're pretty good on defense, so it's going to be a challenge next this coming Thursday. So hopefully they're going to be up for it.
They're gonna bring the lunch pail to the yard, and they're gonna try to beat you up. They're gonna try to bloody you, get a couple of scrapes and scratches. They're gonna fight you. That's old school football. That's what they do. That's Will Hall. That's what he does. Old Georgia boy.
Yeah, man. I respect those boys, man. I respect them. Hey, they Mississippi boys like me. I respect them.
Hell yeah. Well, T, thanks for chiming in, man. We really appreciate your insight on the line. Always a good conversation. If you have anything else, by all means, send it. Hey, and also tell the kids if they watch a little football, they got something to say. They always wake up. Welcome on Rage and Review.
Oh hell yeah! I'm with my little one right now.
Good stuff, man.
Have a good day. Thank y'all. You
Yes,
do a great
indeed.
job. Appreciate it.
Thank you. But honestly, as far as the attendance goes, what else? What else? We had 56 students. What do you want to do? All right. I'm not blaming the administration on the students, because that is a SSO situation. That is a Greek situation. That's students coming to the game. But Jerry, when the kids started getting kicked out of the game, they started getting fined for whatever shenanigans they were doing at the game. They all told us there is a boycott coming. We will boycott the games. Well, that happened today.
What's ironic about that is the section where they couldn't stand, they're allowed to sit there now. They opened the section back up today. So
you don't say.
My question is, why did you shut it off in the first place? Why would you do that?
I don't have an answer. I think they're out of their damn minds. I don't know.
Look, I get it. If you're yelling certain, racial slurs or profanity or spitting on the other players and all that stuff, then yes, you need to be reprimanded and there needs to be a certain consequence to it. But when students are coming down to your student section and that middle section at the 50-yard line is being basically like it's being guarded to where nobody can sit there, and they're being squashed in like sardines into that one section. Well, if I'm a student, you know how inconvenient that could be, especially apparently they were squeezing in people that had tickets to sit in that middle section. So when you create an inconvenience like that, why would they want to come back? And if I'm a student, yeah, I'll go tailgate, but I guarantee you a lot of students today were probably tailgating and were like, you know what? I really don't want to go in the game. I don't want to deal with that inconvenience. I don't want to be squished in like a sardine with the sun in my face. So I'm just going to go off and drink and do whatever while the game's going on, or I'll just go back to my place and watch it on TV. I have a bad feeling. I think that was what happened. And then come to find out now that section that's been guarded is now open again. So yeah, consistency, man. Consistency. That's the important part.
Look, I'm just going to say it for the 50th time in the last 4 weeks. We have got to we've got to build our fan base from kids. We got to make kids want to come to the games so that they tell their parents we want to go to the games, so their parents spend money and come to the games. Do we? And I don't know the answer to this. We may. But where is our community involvement at the schools? We don't have a mascot. We launched that discussion. There is still no real discussion on whether or not we're going to ever get not a mascot, a cheer, whatever they call them, right?
Breaking news. Rage and Review has hired Kyle Brister to be our unofficial mascot.
I thought it was going to be Coach O. But regardless, whatever it is, something to go to the schools to tell the kids, hey, you need to go to the game. The kids tell the parents say, okay, we'll go to the game. This sounds fun. You think back to the HUD years, 2011, those kids are what, 20 now? A lot of those kids, and they're in college, right? And so what do we do when they get into college and they remember how fun the football games were, and now we're at UL? Like you said, Jerry, then we make it harder and we make them not want to come. So do I think it's a fault of the administration? Yes. But do I also think it's just the people in the Acadiana area not buying into the program? Yes. And it's when you've got kids that are told at the age of 3 that they have to cheer for this certain team and put these ugly, god-awful colors on and sing these stupid whatever, and they grow up in that atmosphere, then yeah, when they grow up, they're going to be those fans. We need to start, again, getting the kids starting at the young age to be fans. And then when they become college aged, not make it more difficult for them to enjoy the game. I mean, it's a twofold. We gotta start young, and we gotta start with the kids, because the momos and the papaws that sit in the section that I sit in when I go to the games sit on their hands and golf clap whenever there's a big play.
I was asked to sit down today.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me to sit
You're at a
down.
football game.
Now, my wonderful wife said, don't make a thing about it, just sit down. So I did. But here's the thing, and you're not wrong about that, by the way. But Jerry and I have this debate often, and it's going to sound political, but it isn't. Politics has done a number on the trust of this particular area for a very long time. And this is where people have the back and forth. Do I continue to mistrust these politicians who want my tax dollars? Or do I look at something like the airport? And Jerry's going to smile when I say this. The airport is a great model. They said, hey, give me your money. We're going to build a new terminal, and then we're going to stop taking your money. And guess what they did? They took our money. They built it. They built a terminal, and then they stopped taking our money. A terminating tax, right? I think that if we have an administration that comes in and says, I know what happened in the past has scarred you for life. All right. But here's our plan. We're going to take your donations. We're going to take your input into the university, and we're going to turn it into something. And then we're going to stop asking you for stuff. We just want you to come here and enjoy yourself. We're not quite there yet. We're not quite at that precipice where people are, look, I've given my money. I've given my interest. It's time to either make a decision, whatever. I think we're not quite there yet, but I think the parallel is there. I think the new folks that are in charge, especially Brian, and we've been very pro Brian Maggard on this show as long as we've ever been in existence. I think he's trying to do it the right way, but he's fighting the legacy screw ups. All right. At some point, we as fans, I don't care how old you are. I know we've seen some terrible stuff. The boomer generation has seen even worse. They saw the Ray Audemars reign and all this other stuff. We've all seen some pretty bad stuff. At some point, we say, all right, I know that you guys have screwed up a lot. We see you're trying. Let's go all in. Like, let's try it again. Give them another shot. I think we have the right people at the right places at the right time to make a big push to make everything come together, build the stadium, build the culture, build the interest around the complex. If we want to be big time, if we want to really invest, and I'm not talking about lip service, and I'm not talking about doing the Alden report and a few surveys, which was a good start, but it's not a good follow through. We're 5-6 years removed from that. There should not be 15,000 people for Arkansas State on a beautiful Saturday in Lafayette, Louisiana. I don't care if Golf Brew's on. I don't give a shit if LSU is beating Ole Miss. Kiffin always screws up the big games. Who cares? Don't care about that. We need our own fans coming to our own game, representing our own culture from the school that represented and educated them. We need them. We need to go after those people, not the two-way players, not the, I root for LSU when they play and I root for the Cajuns when they play. No, get rid of that. Stop that. Let's go after our alumni. Let's go after our fans and our citizens. We got plenty of them. At some point, we got to stop blaming Ray Audemars and his reign and Blanco and all them. And we got to say, Maggard's in charge now. I'm going to give him a chance. We have the renovation in place. Let's go full bore. Let's do it. Let's give it a shot. If we get burned, shit, we get burned. It's going to happen one way or another. But I'm not going to keep going across the damn basin. I'm not going to keep spending my money in Baton Rouge. I'm not going to keep walking 8 miles to go to a damn football game I can't even hear. We got a gym here in Lafayette. We have a gym. Let's cultivate it. Let's make it the best it can be. 15,000 on a beautiful Saturday is not what it should be. I don't care what the excuse is.
But one other thing I want to say, and it kind of summarizes everything we've talked about UL's past. We have to stop saying the word can't. Well, we can't do this because of what's happened. We can't do this because of the circumstances. We can't is the reason why you've seen 15,000 people today. We can't do this because of ESPN Plus. We can't do this because LSU's playing across the basin. We can't do this. We can't make the concessions better because of the way the stadium's built. Try. Find a solution. Try. We got to get UL has been poisoned for so long with the culture of can't. We can't do this. We got to stop with can't and try. Even if you try and fail, it's better than saying can't, because when you say you can't do something, that means you haven't tried. I'd rather try and fail. At least I put the effort into doing it, right? We got to stop saying can't. That's step one. And the point of that, and the brunt of what I mean by culture of can't, is the mentality. It's a mentality. We talk about culture. Culture is a mentality and acting on that mentality. If we have a culture of can't, you're going to act on the mentality and nothing's going to get done. And you're going to keep going back to square one and creating insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So, I just kind of wanted to kind of give you a preliminary statement on what you just said, Josh, because everything you said is spot on. But until you get rid of that mindset of we can't do this and we can't do that and just throw our hands up and give up before even attempting to try, then it's still going to be the same. And that, unfortunately, it still plagues our culture. It still plagues the university. It still plagues the athletics, and not necessarily the employees. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just the aura of how we've always done things. And luckily for people like Brian Maggart that have come in, they're trying to get out of that. But at the same time, when he can't do it all by himself. This has to be a team effort. This has to be a community effort.
I'm going to give it to Nick. When Mike Alden got here, they said we can't. I'm going to take it before that. When Ricky Bussell got here, they said we can't. When Coach Hudspeth got here, they said we can't. When Mike Alden showed up prior to Brian Maggart even taking the job, they said we can't. When Billy Napier got here, they finally said, we'll give it a shot. And look what happened.
Oh, no. But that's not before they said we can't be a top 25 program. I've heard fans say that.
Shit.
I remember I was like, well, look, Billy.
You can't say stuff like that around here, Jerry.
I'm the one that said it. I said, Billy's going to get us a top 25 team. Oh, no, man. We've never been top 25. That'll never happen. We can't be top 25. And what happened? 2 years in a row, not just 1 year, not just 1 week, 2 years in a row, we were a top 15 program in America of all the programs in college football. With the culture of can't, you don't get in the top 50.
Well, we did it with the culture of can't because it was still there. Nick, it's yours.
I just want to say something that you said earlier this season that really stuck with me and I think still needs to be done, that we're just missing an opportunity. We have got to have in-your-face marketing of this program within a 5-parish minimum area. In your face, everywhere you go, there is Ragin' Cajuns. And grow a sack. If you have, which they do right now, a business that is within walking distance for your campus that has more purple and gold stuff and you can't find any red, that's a problem. Go tell them. Go say something. What's it going to do? Do they say screw off? Okay, they told you to screw off. At least you tried. They're not going to move. Grow a sack. Do something about it. But we have to be in your face because it's not going to be, look, it's generations of all of the funding and state support and politicians and commercialism going towards one school in the entire state. Okay? So they
preach, brother Nick. Preach,
for
baby.
100 years. They've had the advantage. So if we want to try to chip away at that, we can't just expect people to show up. We have to be in your face. And maybe, you know what? Maybe we get 18,000 instead of 15,000. Okay, so now you got 3,000 more people. Don't stop doing it. Don't stop just because something doesn't work immediately. Don't stop. And again, it's as simple as getting I don't even think the football team has a TikTok account. Appalachian State's TikTok account, I think, has ridiculous views on it. And they have engagement with the fans. And somebody said the Momos and the Pawpaws are the fans now. What happens when those Momos and Pawpaws pass away? Then what does our fan base look like?
We have never been a forward-thinking fan base.
We have got to start engaging. We have got to start engaging with at least a minimum of a 5-parish area in your face. We have got to get some kind of spirit leader, mascot, whatever you want to call it, in the schools. We got to make kids want to come and tell their parents. And you do that and you start seeing results, but don't give up on it when it doesn't work after a year, because we try to start these traditions. We try to start these things and we just give up on it.
Nick, all fucking freaking spectacular, excuse me, for the kids out
You're
there.
going to edit that out for the.
Yeah, I'll edit it out for the pod version, but I'm going to make an analogy before I do that. And look, I know that this is not always the right way to go, right? The man about town way of doing things is not always the way you want to do it. You got to have some tact from here and there. But sometimes the man about town way is the right way. Y'all have got to stop taking S from these people. Stop taking these terrible excuses that they give you and eating it. Y'all got to get past that. And I'm talking about our hardcore fans. And I would say only our hardcore fans are still watching the show on a post game. Stop taking their BS excuses for why you can't give money, get a parking pass. Why are things the way they are? Why do I have to park way over here? Why are my tickets stuck in this corner? Stop listening to their crap. Show up and demand better. This is still a small business. This is a small operation. Until they have or they feel pushback from real fans. And I'm talking about real pushback. Nothing's changing here, guys. Nothing. One of the big things one of the most proud things that I am about Rage and Review is that we've made people uncomfortable. I mean, unfortunately, we all want to, Cajun people want to be friends. We were kicked out of a country and now we live in the armpit of America. We're trying to make friends here. We're sick and tired of being kicked out of places. All right. But here's the thing. It can be a crippling ability, or not ability, but a crippling attribute. Stop trying to make friends with these people. Tell them what you expect. You are the customer. Stop telling them stop allowing them to dictate what you're going to accept, and go out there and tell them, I'm the customer. You're going to help me. You're going to take my donation. You're going to let me move my tailgate spot. You're going to let me move my seats if I want to. Stop letting them tell you what they're going to give to you. You're the fan. We don't have enough fans for these people to tell you what they're going to do. Michael Harrower, excuse me. It's a great comment that you just made, and I put it up for a reason. Please keep doing what you're doing. We don't have enough of you. We could 10,000 more of you. We need them. We need people that are going to continue to show up, wear their Cajuns gear, talk about the program, even in the face of, it's a small little dinky program in Lafayette. That's the way the national people see us until Billy Napier got here. Look at the inroads that we made, especially from a branding standpoint. Look at the inroads that we've made nationally because of people who cared about what folks said about us on national TV. It matters. I'm going to tell you right now, your degree, my degree, all these folks' degree that went to UL, it might be kind of stupid, but because our sports teams are more relevant, people see it and they go, oh, well, it's an elevated importance to them. It's the front porch of the university. How many times have we heard T.J. Savoy say that? I mean, it matters, folks. Stop sitting back and waiting for this program to grow without you. Go be the change you want to see in it. We don't have enough. 15,000 people. I think we have that. I think Nick's got 40,000 people in his freaking neighborhood we could fill Cajun Field with.
Let me tell you, I can go to a Jesuit Brother Martin football game on a Friday night at Tad Gormley, and there'll be more than 15,000 people.
It's damn embarrassing.
No,
and Jerry, I will go back to this. The way that we've run this program for 4 decades, the value is not there. The value is not there. Somebody made a comment earlier about, let me see if I can find it. The cheapest ticket they could find for their daughter, who was right out of the Young Raging Cajun club age group, was $25. It was $25 for them to get in, and they went to I don't remember who it was. I think it was Southern Miss. It was Nick Deal who made the comment. Southern Miss let their kid in for $6. We charged $25 to get them in because they didn't reach it. The point I'm trying to make is that you got to find a way to be flexible for certain fans. I'm not blaming the fans because they've been conditioned to have a shitty experience when they walk into Cajun Field. That is not their fault. So if 15,000 people show up to an event, it's not the people's fault, Jerry. It is the people who put on the event's fault.
But when you give a fan base, like for example, we talk about the tailgating prices, we talk about the parking prices and all that stuff. And, really we do give decent value compared to a lot of other schools. The problem is when you give away so many things for free for so many decades and the product itself doesn't change, right? Cajun Field hasn't been renovated since 1971. The only thing that's been touched is when they added the end zone seats in 2014. When you have a stadium that's been around for 50 years that hasn't really changed much, and all of a sudden now you're adding cost to certain amenities that never cost anything. Well, what do you expect fans to do? They're not going to smile about it. They're not going to be happy. And so it's like I've told a few fans, I said, the problem is we've created so much entitlement to our fan base, and that's not the fans' fault. When you give things away for free and nothing changes on the inside, well, what do you expect? I mean, why don't get mad when the fans don't want to go when you put a premium or a markup on the cost of tickets or the cost of parking or the cost of tailgating when nothing's changed. Nothing's changed.
Does the value match the product?
That's the point. That's what I'm saying.
If you didn't sell the product properly for the previous 25, 30 years, nobody's paying for it. I've had conversations multiple times with fans guys walking around with Raging Cajun hats and shirts at the festival. We've had this exact conversation. There is no value. Like if somebody gives me tickets, yeah, sure, I'll go to the game, but I'm not fixing to pay $100 for my family to go watch the Cajuns.
Right.
I'm just saying that's not a knock on the football team.
No.
That's a knock on the event.
Well, it's like this, man. If you put $100 on like a Cajuns regional game, if they're hosting a regional at the Teague or softball hosts a super, yes, obviously there's value to that. But if you're doing a regular Thursday night game where tickets used to cost $15 to $20 and now you're marking up the cost again, especially when you can pay $9 a month to watch it from your couch on your phone on ESPN Plus, from a cost effective standpoint, which choice is the smart choice, right? You're not going to want to go to the game. You're going to want to watch it. So now you're in an environment where you're competing against these other amenities that make you watch the game at a more convenient level, such as from your home. So that's where I think, again, I understand you want to add value, but you got to add value to something that's already there. You know, and if it's not there, if it never was there, then you're not adding value. You're just making it more expensive. You're just making the original product more expensive and more inconvenience for the fans. And I understand a lot of times you hear, well, our fans need to understand that there's value to this, there's value to that. But then in that case, you better find a really good way to explain why. You don't just say, well, you owe it to the school to pay them. Well, no.
If you start the conversation with they need to understand, you have failed to educate them on why they need to understand.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It should be obvious why $25 to get into an FBS football team who's ranked in the top 25 is a good value. I'm going to tell you right now, you guys mentioned Christy Gray earlier, and Christy Gray, prospective interview for the podcast, by the way, has one of the most incredible, most electric atmospheres I've ever sat in at UL. Now, Diamond Sports notwithstanding, I know we've had some postseason games and things like that, but we went to the ODU game on Friday, and that place was absolutely insane. They got 1,500 people, maybe 1,600 people in EK Long, and it sounds like there's 5,000 people on top of you.
Yeah.
It's free to walk in the door, Jerry. It's free. So you can't, we're having this conversation about creating value and creating atmosphere, but also people are just walking into EK Long and going berserk for a volleyball team, which, by the way, is pretty damn good. So I'm going to shout out to the volleyball team and Christy Gray, and great job creating that culture and that environment. But sometimes the dollar amount doesn't it's not tantamount to what you should experience when you walk in the door. Kyle just made a comment about Raging Cajun football being one of the best values in America. I agree, because we know what kind of a product is on the field.
Absolutely.
But when 40 years have gone by and you've told the fans, we don't care if you come or not. We don't care if your kids are starving and you want just a bag of popcorn. We don't care. We don't care if you want a beer. Here's a 45-minute wait. No big deal. We don't care about that. Just go ahead and give your money.
Yeah.
And Nick, it's your turn to speak about it. But when you have told the fans that their opinion or their return trip doesn't matter, why the hell would the fans care?
Look, I'm just going to wrap up my thoughts on it by saying Dr. Maggard has made concessions. People have gone to him and said, this is too expensive. I don't like the way you did parking. I don't like the way you do this. Why? and he's listened and he's changed, and people still don't show up. So to me, again, it's not about the fans that are on the borderline. Do I want to come? Do I not want to come? Because that's a whole different conversation. We need to engage with people in our community and make them feel a part of this program. That is the first step. Make them feel a part of the UL program by reaching out, by marketing in your face, again, by starting with kids and making them feel like they belong here. And then the rest will come. But we've, like you said, for so many years in this program, have just said, well, we're here, come or don't come. We don't really care. Now that we're trying to get people to come in, we can't just sit by, well, we had a few good years at top 25, so people are going to come and they're going to be our fans. That's not how it's going to work. Again,
and then people get mad. Well, we were good for 2 years. Well, who gives a damn? I haven't looked at a UL Cajuns game in 4 or 5 years. Like, there's a big disconnect. And to your point about the meemaws and the peepaws, and we kind of joke about that, we have generations of fans that we missed. Like the people that are filling App State's stadium and filling Alabama's, you go across the country, the people that are sitting in those seats right now, we completely missed on them.
Yep.
Because we just didn't care.
So, like, I'll give you my parents, for example. My parents are elderly. They're not going to go to a game, okay? Because they're going to have to walk into the stadium. It's a big deal. My dad listens to every Ragin' Cajun football game on the radio because he can't figure out the ESPN yet. So that's a whole new thing we got to teach him. But there's potential. There are people there who are just waiting to be engaged with. And I'm not saying that if somebody called my dad or marketed to him that he would go to the game, it's still difficult for him to be there. But it's just an example of, like, there are people in the area that will sit at home and watch us on ESPN or ESPN2 or ESPN Plus or whatever we're on, but they're like you said, they don't have a reason to come. They don't feel like they're a part of the program. They're going to watch us because we're on TV, but they don't feel connected. We're missing that connection. And that, once we figure that out, things are going to change, but we have to figure out that making that connection and making them feel a part of the program. Until then, we're going to keep spinning these wheels and talking about this every year.
Let me tell you, I'm an outlier because I grew up in New Orleans, and growing up in New Orleans as a kid, being a Cajuns fan, it's very rare because you're surrounded by LSU, you're surrounded by Tulane, UNO, and then of course you got sports with the Saints. And, back then that was before the Hornets came, or in the Pelicans and the Hornets came about. But, I remember when my mom and dad would bring me to the games as a kid. We'd go visit my grandma and my family in Jeanerette. We'd drive through Jeanerette to Lafayette, and then we'd come see a USL football game. And that was when Jake and Brandon and those guys played. And I just remember watching us, going on the field, seeing the script Cajun helmets with the red jersey and the white pants. That's why I love the uniform combination of the script Cajun helmets and the red jersey and the white pants with the red stripe. That's my childhood. Like, that's my connection. That's nostalgic to me. And that's something that has stuck with me for a very long time to this day. And just seeing something as simple as a football uniform combination was something that I remember that was so important in my childhood, being a football fan, growing up a Cajuns fan, followed by going to the UL baseball games, watching my cousin play. And then it morphed into me going to college here and, interning, like with you, Nick, when you did the PA, I'd work the baseball games as a volunteer and getting to experience that 2014 season, into being, a graduate student, getting my master's, meeting my wife at UL, meeting my best friends at UL, and then into this podcast right now. It all started from my childhood, going to the UL football games. And again, I'm an outlier from New Orleans. There weren't many out there like me because not many kids grew up like me in New Orleans that became Cajun fans. My point is this: there could be so many more of a Jerry, a Nick, and a Josh who grew up around this program if we put that effort in. And it may not sound like a lot right now because, you're talking to this 5-year-old kid. What if he doesn't care? You know what? For every 100 kids you go talk to, even if it's 10 to 15 kids that stay with the program and it sticks with them, 15 to 20 kids that grow up to be Cajun fans, it's almost like a pay it forward model. They can pass it on to their friends and their friends and their friends. And that's how you grow a fan base. But it has to start at that young age, and Jerry, it has to leave an impact there.
What did Rick Jones say? 0 to 5. You got him for life.
Exactly. I'm one of them. And again, I keep saying it. I'm not even from Lafayette. I'm one of them. And I'm just saying, just put forth the effort to do that. Just put forth the effort to do that. And even if you don't feel like it's really producing as much because, the kid doesn't communicate it with you, maybe it does have an impact on that certain kid. Maybe it does. I'm just saying, if we go after those kids, we go to those schools and teach them the fight song. You go to those schools and get a mascot, bring the mascot over, like you said, Nick. I'm telling you, that's how you grow your fan base at a young age. That's how you do it. I don't know what we're doing right now, but I'm once again, culture of can't rearing its head again. We can't do that. Try.
Well, look, I'm going to challenge the dads out there because Jerry will back me up on this. Nick too. I have 3 kids. I want you to go talk to any of my 3 kids and say the word Tigers or Baton Rouge. You know what they're going to tell you?
That's a curse word in my house. My godchild, that's not allowed to be said with the kids in my family.
It starts at what they hear at home. If you guys are watching, look, I don't hate you if you want to watch the Tigers play. Look, it's not even like that. But if you want to be part of building the program to where it could be, to a UCF, to a Cincinnati, to a San Diego State, to a Houston, if you want to be that, you got to tell your kids that we're part of the build. We're part of the bedrock of that. I'm going to tell you right now, you tell Big Cat something about the Cajuns, he's all the way in. You mention any other team, he ain't listening to you. He don't want to hear it. Cam's the same way.
But here, you know what else it is, Josh? And this is the last thing I'm going to say because we're almost like 2.5 hours into this. It's easy to be a fan of the school 60 miles down the road with all the resources, with all the donations, with all the program, with the winning, with the ability NIL that we can't provide. It's easy because they're going to end up winning because they have everything that they need from any resource possible to do that. It's not easy to be a Cajuns fan, but you know what? When you get those people to buy in, and we saw it the last couple of years, and you have success on a national level, it makes it that much sweeter. And I think that's what we are. That's what we don't have, is that people who realize it's sometimes hard to be our fan, but when we get to where we go, man, it's an awesome ride, and it just means so much more.
Well,
it's easy fan of a program that always wins.
It's not just a program that always wins. It's a program, like you said, that's been given everything. It's been given everything through the state legislature. It's been given everything for the last century, to the point where like the governor would actually go talk to the referees 100 years ago, right? To help his team win. When you get
Shout out Huey.
When you get that type of favoritism to a school, and I'm not knocking them or anything, because look, they've been the beneficiary of all of that. So in their point of view, it's like, well, look, can you blame us? I get that. But at the same time, when you're the underdog, it just, like you said, not only is it sweeter, but when you have a fifth of the budget, when you have a fifth of the resources, and you're able to maintain a certain level of success that they always strive for, and you get about neck and neck with them on that certain level of success, like our top 25 team in the last 2 years, our baseball team in 2014, it makes us enjoy the success so much more, because we really had to earn it. It was never given to us. It's easy when you have a $200 million budget and you win in your sports, because like you said, you have everything. It's easy to do that. But when you're doing it with peanuts, let me tell you, that's when it makes it so much more awesome to enjoy that success. And that's part of the thing about being a Cajuns fan. I visualize that success. I visualize us going to Omaha again. I visualize us being in the CFP. Or at least a New Year's Six Bowl one day down the road, But until we get rid of the culture of can't, that would never happen here. Until we get rid of that, we're not going to accomplish that. Start visualizing those results. Start as a fan. And look, I know our motto's to tell you not to be a fan, but I'm just saying, I'll just ask you this, Cajun Nation, if you're listening to me, just visualize those things and get the word can't out of your mind for just a second, and just imagine what it would be like to experience those type of successes down the road. It'll make you want to take more action as a fan. That's just me.
It's a great point, Jerry, and thank you for saying that. I'm going to make this quick point, and I'm going to give Terry the last word before we bounce here. The reason why I struggle to blame our fans, and the reason why, look, this past week we had a radio personality that rubbed people the wrong way and has a history of maybe talking down to fans that I don't like. That's been a topic of conversation, but I'm going to tell you why I don't look down my nose at our fans. It takes guts to be a Cajuns fan. It takes guts. You got to want to be a part of this program. You got to want to be a diehard Raging Cajun fan because you get thrown at, you get slaying stuff at you. It's easy to go across the basin and be a part of a ready-made winner. That stuff's easy. It takes guts to stay here and build this program. So anybody that's wearing red, you have my respect, and I'm never going to talk down. And that's one of the reasons why the Rage and Review podcast's mission is to always uplift the fan base and grow it from a grassroots standpoint. And I'm always going to uplift the fan base because I'm sick and tired of watching other people tell us how to be fans. You don't get to tell me how to be a damn fan. We're growing this fan base one person at a time, and it takes guts to take up that that's a torch. It's a not a torch. I lost my train of thought there, but
Pick up the flag, baby. Hold the flag.
Pick up the flag. It takes guts, man. It takes guts. So anyway, Terry, last word, and then we'll bounce, man. It's all yours. I will get you in as you requested. Go ahead, sir.
Hello?
It's yours.
Yeah, but hey, last thing I want to say, man, like going back to what you said about your kids, and like you say, Tigers of Baton Rouge. Hey, what they say in the military, right? That's called indoctrination.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
That's indoctrination. Every Saturday, my daughter wears red. Every Saturday she wears red. And I've indoctrinated her to do that. And I grew up. My mom went to ULM, and my aunt lives in Ruston, so I grew up watching Warhawk and Tech games. But
Lord
as
have
soon
mercy.
as I got,
they're gonna throw you out of the family.
Yeah, hey, But as soon as I got to UL, I was indoctrinated, and that's just what it was.
Do you agree that it takes guts? It takes guts to be a Cajun fan or a Cajun player and put up with all this stuff?
Say that again. Sorry.
I was just asking if you agreed that it takes guts to be one of us. Guts to go against the machine that is the purple and gold and all the rest of that stuff.
I don't think it takes guts at all. I just think that I think it just takes pride. I don't think guts has anything to do with it. I think it just takes pride in who you are and where you come from. You know what I'm saying?
Hell yeah.
That's how I feel about it. There's nothing that they can do to us, right, that hasn't been done in the past, which is nothing. What can they do?
Hell yeah.
That's how I feel.
I feel that.
I mean, it never stopped Tech from always talking crap and, being arrogant, and look what they are now. Never stopped them.
FCS, that's what they are.
We just need to take
karma,
who we are.
baby.
That's all I got to say about it.
Terry, appreciate you, man. Always appreciate your comments. Well, boys, it's been fun.
Oh, well, before we go, I do want to give you guys some score updates around the Sun Belt real quick.
Let's do it.
All right, so just to give you a heads up, so as you know, Wednesday night, App State took care of business, got back on the winning track against Georgia State by a score of 42-17.
Which, by the way, my pick to win the East has been a complete disaster.
Bye-bye. Yeah, just scratch that off the list. Thursday, huge game in the West, huge implications and advantageous for the Cajuns. Troy keeping the Sun Belt West hunt alive for everybody, winning against South Alabama by the score of 10-6. As of right now, South Alabama has one loss. The Cajuns have two, even though South Alabama owns the tiebreaker. As of right now, if the Cajuns win out, South Alabama would need two losses in the West, but it still keeps hopes alive. Today, as you know, Cajuns took care of business against Arkansas State by the score of 38-18. UL Monroe went to Army, played up against West Point, lost 48-24 in a non-conference matchup against the
Way to
Black
show
Knights.
up, Warhawks. Jesus.
Marshall, way to respond after the disappointing loss to the Cajuns last week. Well, disappointing loss to them, of course. Going to JMU on the road on their homecoming, I believe, beat James Madison by a score of 26-12. Georgia Southern still taking care of business in conference. They're on a run right now. Big win over Old Dominion on the road by a score of 28-23.
Wow.
And last but not least, the next opponent, the old rivalry renewed, Southern Miss Golden Eagles go to San Marcos, Texas, and score a last-minute touchdown to defeat the Texas State Bobcats by a score of 20-14. So that's just a little bit of a update around what's going on in the Sun Belt. And of course, Louisiana travels to Southern Miss Thursday night in Hattiesburg. Guys, once again, we play the Golden Eagles. Rivalry renewed, baby.
All I see is a win and a late night for the Rage and Review boys. Going into Friday. God, and late night post games will get you, man. Hey, I love winning. Winning, to quote James, winning is way more funner than losing.
That it is, regardless of who's there to watch.
All right, Nick, take us out.
Oh, Cat, I like to win.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you love the Rage and Review podcast, please subscribe, like, rate, review, send to your friends, moms and dads, cousins, nephews, nieces, and uncles. We'll see you next week for a late night Thursday post game. And actually, we'll see you before that because we're going to do a preview way before that. Probably Monday night because Thursday night game, it is what it is. But we'll be coming back soon. But thanks for participating in the post game. Cajuns win, Cajuns win, Cajuns win. Arkansas State, go home. Disgusting. See y'all later. Go Cajuns.